On a normal day in the city of Lantian, something suddenly began to shake in the skies. With a strange purple lightning, people began to wonder what was happening as they ran to save their lives. Amidst the chaos and destruction, a monster was seen by everyone, and naturally, the despair increased more and more. A boy who was sleeping on a bench in the square woke up confused in the face of all this chaos. This was the advent of an unprecedented disaster that had the power to threaten all life on Earth. Spreading death and despair, a huge monster arrived and began to destroy the entire city. In the face of that, no one could be spared as they looked at the abyss that had descended to Earth. However, the man who was awakened in the square was not willing to die along with the others in this place, because today is finally the day he would see his girlfriend again after 3 years. However, suddenly a huge monster appeared in the city to ruin all the boy's plans, and this monster burned the boy entirely, even though he still had many things to resolve in his life. But the boy ended up accepting his cruel fate and understood that he would die there, and inevitably, he would no longer be able to see his beloved ever again. It had been a long time since the aliens silently began their invasion of Earth. At first, people dismissed these strange occurrences and treated them as rumors until the disaster came to them. In 1934, the body of a giant dragon fell from the skies in the northern Dongshuan Sea, destroying several fishing boats around. However, the next day, the monster's body disappeared, and in 1947, it was a giant crustacean's turn to appear in the western Meligo Sea. Then in 2020, a giant monster was sighted in the southeast of the Longo district, under the red moon in the sky. But they all disappeared the next day without a trace, as if they had never appeared before. Even saying everything was fine, another incident could happen, and that is what happened with the city of Liantian being annihilated in one night. In this case, some civilians comment that they should also move from where they are to avoid any problems. But at that moment, the boy from before begins to feel sick from the noise, and suddenly he opens his eyes, finding himself underwater. Quickly, he looks at his hands but sees only 2 fins, and after thinking a bit, his fate becomes clear. Incredibly, after dying, the boy reincarnated as a fish in an ordinary lake in any city. For his luck or misfortune, there was a mirror attached to the bottom of the lake, and this made the boy confirm his hypothesis. Whether easy to accept or not, the boy was now just a simple carp like any other. However, the boy did not remember dying but remembered the giant monster he saw in his city. In this case, he began to question what happened to Xaaxui and what that monster was besides wanting to take a look outside. However, he is very limited in this form and would certainly feel better if he could get out of there. In any case, a fish also has things to worry about, such as the presence of countless predators. And with that, the hero witnesses the food chain acting in real time and begins to flee to save his second life. Despite swimming very fast, he finds himself cornered by the river monsters that pursued him. However, something even bigger than those predators appeared, with its shadow over all. This was an even more dangerous predator that was responsible for eating the boy's predators. However, besides this one, there was another much bigger than the previous one that, without wasting time, swallowed the monster whole. In this case, the wisest decision of the boy was to hide in a can he found stuck in the deepest part of the waters. At this moment, he decided to forget about the possibility of leaving this place, as his biggest problem was to stay alive. Suddenly, a message appears to the boy saying that the invincible leveling system has been successfully activated. And along with this message, a very beautiful girl also appears in the form of a mermaid. The hero, in turn, asks exactly who she is, but she just pulls him by the fin. Logically, the boy, who is now a carp, asks what the girl is doing holding him like that. However, the mermaid does not respond and continues to pull him closer and closer to the surface. Inevitably, after a very long journey, the two reach the shallow waters of the region where the boy reincarnated. Then, after feeling unwell for a few moments, the hero again asks about the mermaid's identity. In response, that beautiful mermaid informs him that she is the living and physical personification of the leveling system. The host, in turn, is the hero Lin Hao, level 1 of the Black Koi race, and his skills and characteristics are nothing special. In any case, the protagonist asks what he needs to do to increase his level. Without delay, the system informs Lin that he needs to start eating, which he does with the first thing he sees ahead. By devouring a breadcrumb, the hero receives an evolution point and understands the game's mechanism. Therefore, even though he understood, he is still irritated because he will have to keep eating non-stop until he evolves. After working on his level for a long time, the hero stops to rest with a full belly. In the end, all the progress he managed to achieve were a mere 5 evolution points, which didn't seem appropriate to Lin's mind. However, he quickly notices many more pieces of breadcrumbs falling into the water, and so he doesn't waste time to continue evolving and sets out to eat all he can. Unexpectedly, the breadcrumb crumbs are worth many points, and Lin becomes curious to know who is feeding the fish at this hour. This person, however, was none other than his girlfriend, who is in a moment of mourning for her boyfriend. With a photograph of the two in her hand, she laments because they came very close to seeing each other again and couldn't. The girl comments in tears that Lin Hao promised her that he would wait for her to return so they could meet. So in the face of this, the hero hears everything and thinks that the name said by the girl is the same as his own, which is quite a coincidence. However, suddenly something scares the girl, and this makes her drop her couple's portrait. It falls from her hand and goes down until it meets its end at the bottom of the reservoir along with countless fish. Anyway, the man warns his captain Lu that they need to leave, and even with regret, she understands. Thus, as she goes, she hopes her boyfriend holds on because she will find him when everything is over. Back in the depths, the portrait continues to sink in the water, but the protagonist manages to come across the object. Unexpectedly, he realized that the one in the photo was his girlfriend, and so the person who was crying was her. Because of this, Lin used all his strength to surface as fast as he could. However, upon reaching the surface and observing the outside, he realizes that his beloved has already left. With that, Lin is filled with sadness and begins to cry, saying he would never go away without his Yakshui. But at that moment, the hero realizes that the pocket watch continued falling until he lost sight of it completely. This was a special memento of the two, and so Lin needs to get it back, even though he is still very weak at the moment. In this case, he laments that the two will continue missing each other for some time. But wiping his tears, the hero shows a determined expression to get back everything that was taken from him. Then Lin began his journey through the depths of the river, and more his determination to level up increased. In view of this, the mermaid commented that others usually took days, and therefore she didn't expect someone so eager. Anyway, the system informs that the conditions to evolve have been met. Therefore, Lin wonders what will happen in this evolution if he accepts, but having nothing to lose, he decides to evolve. Then, after making his decision, the system answers the hero's question by saying that the sky is the limit. Later, the protagonist wakes up after a long sleep that was necessary for his evolution. At the moment he opens his eyes, however, he finds himself facing the curious face of that beautiful mermaid. Her curiosity was due to the extremely high amount of time that was necessary for Lin to evolve. In response, the boy also doesn't understand but says he can feel bigger and with harder scales. With a sly intention, the mermaid asks in which part he is bigger, and the hero is incredulous that something like that was said. Anyway, he looks at his status once again and notices some gains, starting with his skills that are now above 0. Among these skills, one was called Powerful Tail Attack and the other Steel Scale Armor. With that, the mermaid informs that the scales become hard as iron for 3 seconds, but have a cooldown of 10 seconds, which isn't much. Shifting his attention, the boy observes a corpse of a large fish being devoured by numerous others. However, now the hero has the power to appear among them and claim what he wants by force. Thus, he uses his tail attack ability and subdues most of the monster fish. Shortly after defeating some, the hero continues his advance and subdues many others with extreme ease. However, not everything would be easy for Lin, because in a place like the ocean, there would always be a bigger predator. Yet now the hero has powerful abilities given to him by the system, and so when the predator tries to devour him, it breaks its teeth. This was the power of the scale reinforcement ability, so having witnessed Lin's power, all the fish fled the area. At this moment, the hero's mission is updated to devour 100 shrimps and receive 2 rewards if he also completes the variation. In the end, the missions would continue to be devouring fish in order to evolve to the next stage. And the real prize that will be given at the end of the missions is said to be something even greater than that. Thus, the hero asks if he can become human again in the future, and the system reiterates that, as the saying goes, anything is possible. And if it's possible to become human again, the protagonist's priority will logically be to go after Xiaoxue. However, the boy begins to act on emotion and descends into the deep waters despite being warned by the system. He is determined to retrieve his keepsake that was thrown into the river and use the moment when the big fish had left to do so. However, as he approaches the object, suddenly a huge monster began to move. In the end, even while sleeping, that monster placed the object under its domain. And with that, Lin thought that this sight made him return to the city of Lin Tian at the moment of his death. With his tail between his legs, the protagonist returns to the shallow waters, being dragged by the system. And very sad, the hero laments being so weak that he can't even recover a simple wristwatch. In his time alive as a human, the two lovers always frequented the same house like a true couple. One day after a bath, Lin's girlfriend came to tell him that she was starving. So after asking what she would like, she replied that she wanted to eat a bowl of noodles. In this case, the hero spared no effort to fulfill his girlfriend's wish and soon brought her the requested meal. With that, he began to walk around the house while calling Xiaoxue to eat. However, after walking a lot, all he found was an empty and dark room with no one. Back to reality, the system asks what Lin is thinking about to be so lost in his own mind. So in response, the hero says with great sorrow that it's nothing too important. However, the mermaid understands the boy's feelings and warns that if that's what he wants, he will need to fight hard and evolve. And thus, Lin manages to understand that the system is right, and so his motivation returns with doubled strength. While swimming around the region, the protagonist finds some shells much larger than normal. Due to animal instinct and evolution, the hero decides to eat one of them, but the taste was not good at all. With that, he spits the shell out and throws the other one he picked up far away. This situation was quite frustrating for Lin because even having food in front of him, He couldn't eat anything. At the moment, he can't even bite a shell with his teeth, and this makes him think that his next evolution will take quite a while. Outside on the surface of the sea, the weather changes to a rainy climate that is approaching the beach shore. And in a very advanced car, the man from before tells Xiaoxu that they have reached their destination. This was the designated location where the body of a huge monster appeared, which made many officials go to the region. Anyway, the man still can't understand the magnitude of what he is seeing in front of him. This monster, which was bigger than anything they had ever seen, is with his dead body on the coast. So in response, Xiaoxu orders everyone to start the evacuation process and keep their distance. That's because the monster's body could explode at any moment on this very coast. Cases of exploding whales are very common, and this occurs due to the excessive accumulation of rotten gases during the decomposition process. This is undoubtedly one of the deadliest biological weapons in the world, and before them existed something even bigger than a whale. Without delay, the girl dresses appropriately and orders her subordinates to prepare the ventilation tubes. As her first action, the girl makes an incision in the monster's skin with a scalpel and immediately places something inside the cut. That something, however, consists of tubes that are being successfully connected to the animal's body. However, at this moment, Captain Zhu receives information that there were some errors in the readings. And because of that, Xiaoxu becomes desperate and shouts for everyone to get away from the body as quickly as possible. Initially, her subordinates don't understand, and so all the girl can do is grab the nearest one by the hand and start running. Then seconds after the warning, the monster's body indeed exits that critical state with a huge explosion. Meanwhile, from within the river, the hero continues his search and finds some living creatures on top of a rock. Fortunately, these were not so bad because besides tasting better than fish scraps, they also gave him 3 evolution points. At this moment, the system informs that an achievement was obtained by eating 200 shrimps, which entitles the hero to receive a regular treasure chest. With that, the system gives Lin the option to open the chest right now, and without delay, the hero accepts. Suddenly, that mermaid generates a treasure chest in her own hands and opens it, releasing an energy that flows to Lin. When the hero receives the reward, all his abilities increase greatly, and now he has the sharp teeth he had suffered so much from not having. Lin doesn't quite understand what will happen, but since it's a reward, he can't see the downside of it. In light of her pupil's latest evolution, the mermaid asks him to show her everything that has improved. However, the hero protested because to him, the system should already know everything since his evolution was due to it. Then the mermaid explains that all rewards are random and the system cannot see through them. At this moment, Lin's reward begins to activate, and this makes him feel an unbearable itch. Because of this, he starts swimming as fast as he can while complaining about the immense itch he is feeling. Unexpectedly, he ends up eating one of the shells that he couldn't manage before with much ease. In this case, he asks the mermaid what she thinks of his new teeth, and the girl decides not to comment. With that, Lin heads to a deeper area and starts eating many new fish with his sharp teeth. However, he couldn't understand why these fish tasted so awful. He believes it's due to the mutation of the fish, but he doesn't know if this can be caused solely by water pollution. In this case, Lin asks the system if these missions are given based on conditions or if they are random, but the mermaid says she doesn't know. Anyway, the hero thinks that if they are condition-based, a mutant creature like the one that killed him must be nearby. In his hypotheses, the protagonist couldn't be more right, and what he feared was getting closer and closer. In any case, Lin still doesn't know what's awaiting him, so he can only feel a shiver down his spine. Meanwhile, on the surface, some humans are trying to search for pleco fish with a flashlight in the sea. However, even though it's something rare, the two are lucky that some have been cast into this same region. However, more dangerous than the humans would be a beam that was quickly approaching the fish. This immense aquatic monster fortunately passes by Lin, ignoring him, and without delay heads to the school of pleco fish. In this case, countless system windows open, informing of the immense danger. And due to the difference in levels, it warns that Lin must prepare for combat. Faced with his new obstacle, the hero believes it will be difficult to come out of something like this completely unscathed. And while he thinks of a plan to escape, a monster devours all the fish until it meets another of the same size. Taking the advantage of the first attack, the earlier monster takes its first bite at the newcomer. And unexpectedly, even though it is a being with an immense carapace, it begins to get the worst of it. Seeing this, Lin comments that when the bird and the oyster fight, the fisherman reaps all the gains. Anyway, he manages to spot another of those fish behind him, and wanting to evolve quickly, the boy eats it. Despite that, the taste of that thing continued to be as bad as it seemed, and it also left his teeth dirty. However, after devouring the fish, the hero gained 10 evolution points, which would give him a good amount of money. And finally, the fight between the two monsters ended with a unilateral victory by the snake monster. After the fight, it began to look around for new prey and soon managed to find the protagonist. Therefore, Lin Hao had to control himself not to panic, and after analyzing his opponent, he managed to notice a wound on its body. Without delay, the snake monster launched an attack, but the hero managed to circumvent the situation with his agility, and quickly, he hid inside a pit in a rock at the bottom of the sea. Without delay, the monster began to attack the protagonist's refuge with its enormous tail. With so many pleco fish in the region, the hero believed that the monster would probably go out to feed on the others. However, the shiver down his spine had not gone away, and his instinct was confirmed with another attack from the monster. In this case, Lin no longer understood what the predator wanted to do, as he would be crushed if things continued like this. In any case, he could not be crushed, so he hurriedly swam at his maximum speed. However, the monster managed to capture Lin without any difficulty with its tongue. In response, the hero tries to use his tail strikes, but nothing has any effect, and Lin's fate draws ever closer. Little by little, the monster takes the protagonist to its stomach, but he is not willing to die now. Meanwhile, the hero's girlfriend continues to flee from the being that suddenly exploded, throwing its parts everywhere. And the man from before fortunately appears to help her defend herself from the debris falling from the sky. Faced with this, Yahello thanks him coldly, and the boy, although a little confused, says he will always be at her disposal. However, amid so many organic compounds, something that resembled a core was also present. Because of that, Yahello realizes this is bad and quickly orders everyone to grab any weapon their hands can hold. That's because that was actually an egg, and they couldn't let even one return to the ocean. Thus, after arming themselves, all the officers began to shoot at the monster's eggs. And in light of this, her assistant commented that their captain Lu was certainly intelligent and athletic. Then, in parallel to the conflict on the beach surface, the hero thinks that he cannot die and must try to get out alive at all costs. And due to his immense willpower, the crystal on his head begins to emit a very strong glow. Therefore, Lin remains determined to get out of there, and at this moment he remembers the wound that the monster has on its back. However, the boy is still in the stomach, and therefore doesn't know how he can find the way back. He's being digested and doesn't know where he is in the monster's body, although he can see some decomposed bodies. In any case, the hero's iron scales last 3 seconds, and combining this with his sharp teeth, he will be able to find the exit. Fortunately, Lin reaches the location of the wound at the exact moment when the monster begins to heal itself, which reveals the position. Thus, the hero manages to find the exact location of the wound and, without wasting time, hardens his scales. Then the protagonist uses all of his strength to pass through that injured region, which makes the monster groan in pain. As expected, the protagonist manages to get out of the animal's body at high speed, and soon he heads to the shallow waters to get rid of his predator, who heads to the depths. Finally, the hero remembers that he was lucky regarding the animal's wound, and the system asks if he is okay. In any case, the protagonist questions how deep this sea is to have such a big snake monster. The mermaid in turn says that Lin will have to find out on his own during his evolution. In any case, that monster was responsible for clearing out all the big ones, so now it remains for the hero to take care of all the leftovers. So without delay, the protagonist set out and ate as many as he could from the school of pleco fish. But even with all the XP gained, the fish still tasted very bad to consume in excess. Suddenly, the system warns that the host has met the necessary conditions to evolve. With that, it asks if Lin wishes to proceed, and he responds affirmatively. Unexpectedly, the evolution occurs very quickly, and many of the hero's abilities receive an upgrade. Besides divine powers that were received, there were still other things to pay more attention to. There was a passive ability that gave the protagonist an increase in tearing bite strength. However, Lin is not so satisfied since he fought hard to gain just a few centimeters. In any case, the system gives the protagonist 3 more missions with interesting abilities. And so Lin prepares to complete the first one and eat even more pleco fish. So after starting his hunt, the hero bites one of the fish, but realizes it's an empty shell. And hidden in a pit, suddenly a strange animal begins to emerge with some threatening antennae. Coming face to face with the protagonist, the fish wastes no time and goes toward the hero to eat him. However, before he could even reach his destination, another even larger one appears, so he decides to change his focus by entering the bigger one's body. Therefore, Lin just stands still and very confused about what he has just witnessed. To address his doubts, the hero asks the system if the monster is eating the fish's brain. With that, the system doesn't know how to answer and questions whether he has the ability to eat such an animal. In response, the hero tells the mermaid to try eating it if she wants, but when Lin tried, it fled. In this case, he questions how he will eat it if it keeps escaping through the mouth. Looking down, it's no longer possible to see that previous monster, and only the big ones are present. This creature is clearly not something commonly found, and so Lin thinks it's a being from the depths. Noticing the hero's pensive behavior, the mermaid asks if he's still thinking about that watch. However, although it's not that, the protagonist remembers his objective and realizes he has no time to waste talking. Because of that, he sets out to finish his mission of eating 100 pleco fish. Back on the surface in another region, a boat was surrounded by the police for forensics to assess. On the coast, a man was found dead lying in his bed in a very strange way, and another can give a testimony on what happened. Unexpectedly, the boy informs, trembling with fear, that everyone was killed by an eel. However, obviously the regular local police would not believe something as silly as that. However, the man becomes desperate and says he's telling the truth, recalling that the eel started to squeeze his friend's neck, who was killed. Then he warns that he was so scared that he couldn't even report it to the police. In this case, the policeman asks about the boy's statement that mentioned more people. That's because they managed to find only a single body in the house, which raises the officer's curiosity. With that, the man realizes that something very bad just happened to his colleagues. In an even greater state of distress, he shouts saying he had warned the men not to take that thing home. And faced with that, the policeman doesn't understand what he's talking about and comments that the boy can go home after the investigation. In the end, it was all over, and so the man stopped trying to fight, losing hope. Without delay, the officer number 1 orders his colleague to contact the dragon group because this is their responsibility. Xiaoxu in turn is part of the forensic team and notices that one of the fish is actually an empty body. Then she asks where the boy found the eggs, and he replies that he found them on the coast in a restricted area. Xiaoxu in turn also questions about the empty body, and the policeman informs that they found a blood trail leading to a nearby river. In light of this, the girl thinks that all this seems to be linked to another day. Without delay, she informs her colleague Zhao about the chance that a mutated creature has infiltrated the city. With that, she asks for the team to be split up so they can search for the creature, and furthermore, Xiaoxu asks to be taken to the river. Back into shallow waters, the hero finally finishes eating all the plico fish he saw. Faced with that, the mermaid asks why the boy is only eating these, and Lin is surprised that the system doesn't know. Promptly, he informs that these fish are an invasive species, and therefore he's taking care of those that pose a threat to wildlife. Now all that remain are native and harmless species, which doesn't yield any benefit from eating them. In any case, Lin can already evolve again since his contribution points are almost double what's necessary. Looking at his evolution, the boy asks what the ability Inauspicious Dwelling is. Furthermore, he asks if he really is a lucky koi fish and if these effects have any impact on him. In any case, the missions are updated daily as expected, but devouring 10 mutated creatures would be something very difficult to do while swimming in this lagoon. With that, Lin remembers the monster that shouldn't be there, and so he thinks that mutated creatures are being thrown into the water. In any case, he believes it's not very good to keep thinking about it and decides to get back to leveling up. After evolving, the hero is now at level 7 and is 1.3 meters tall, weighing 65 kilograms, besides having greatly evolved his abilities. Moreover, he received a camouflage ability when remaining still, matching his colors with the environment. Even his divine powers increased, but that concerns the living beings around him and not himself, which makes him consider having a buff aura. Outside the lake, a mother is having a comfortable moment with her daughter, but the mother warns that they must return before the lockdown time. And at that moment, a military group appears surrounding the area and ordering all civilians to leave. Without delay, some strange capsules are thrown into the water, and Lin soon finds several of them. Being very curious, the boy goes to the capsule to check it out, as it seems to be searching for something. However, what it was searching for were mutated animals, just like our hero. And so the machine's scanner reported the finding to the military computers, which caused Lin to be discovered. Quickly after locating the presence of a mutant animal on the surface, the military descend with diving suits. Then the system warns that the hero has been marked as a mutated creature, and so he should leave as soon as possible. Looking up, the protagonist can see the humans who are coming to hunt him. In this case, the deep waters are full of unknown mutants, which makes it very dangerous to flee that way. But dangerous or not, if Lin stays, he will definitely die, so he should seize his chance of survival. However, upon descending, the protagonist realizes that it's not so bad and that times have changed. In this case, the system suggests that the two boat venture into even deeper waters, but Lin's sanity makes him refuse. Moreover, the hero reprimands the system because according to him, its duty would be to protect the host from the danger zone. In any case, since they're already there, the mermaid gives Lin the idea of taking a bite of a large fish before they go. However, Lin doesn't feel like it due to feeling shivers, which makes the mermaid confused. In such a case, the hero uses his camouflage ability, which will be quite useful at this moment. Because of that, he manages to approach the fish that is being controlled by the previous monster and eat it. This was a very slippery fish, but the protagonist still managed to eat it. And as a consequence, the system warns that the mission to devour 10 mutated creatures has been completed. Taking the lead in opening the chest, the system leaves the hero indignant for not being able to see his new abilities. However, he didn't need to because the skill window appeared in front of him, granting him black iron scales. In this case, the hero comments that all his scales were pulled off, but even so, it didn't hurt at all, being more like he had stumbled upon gold. In any case, he is still not used to this transformation, but with his new ability, he believes it will be easier to survive. However, Lin was still in deep waters, and therefore huge monsters were lurking. Monsters that included the immense dragon serpent from before, which unfortunately appeared now. Naturally, the serpent follows its predator instinct and heads toward our hero. Then again, the system warns that the opponent's combat power is much greater than that of the host. However, Lin is confident that he will show the monster who is the real boss of the place. So at the moment when the serpent was going to devour the hero, he activated the black iron scales. In this way, even though the monster bit the protagonist, he didn't suffer any damage. Whereas, unlike Lin, the snake had all its teeth broken when biting those scales. Without wasting time, the protagonist swims to attack the monster with his powerful tail strike and causes considerable damage. In any case, a beast is still a beast, and therefore, even while getting the worst of it, the monster continues. Therefore, Lin shows no mercy and uses his sharp teeth ability to bite the monster. Furthermore, he uses the black iron scales to continue attacking the same wound. Thus, Lin was determined to show the serpent the predicament it got itself into by picking a fight. Faced with this, the serpent finally begins to use its brain and tries to flee from its newest predator. And in response to the immense adrenaline generated by its endocrine system, it manages to land a powerful blow on the protagonist. In any case, he is determined to kill that giant monster, and therefore he manages to tear off a piece of it. At this moment, the serpent manages to wrap the hero with its tongue, but Lin activates the iron scales along with a powerful tail strike. Therefore, like a real lightning bolt, the protagonist frees himself from the trap and attacks various parts of the animal's body. Right after destroying the monster's tongue, he manages to pierce several parts of his body. And finally, Lin ends this battle victorious, having managed to defeat the red-eyed mutant snake. With that, the boy finally got rid of the bitter taste of defeat and could now recover what is his. Thus, by devouring the red-eyed snake, the boy manages to accumulate 500 points. Naturally, Lin is impressed by the amount, and the system informs that this happens when one comes out victorious from a battle with a level difference. Moreover, the mermaid says that unexpected gains have come, and when asked about it, she touches Lin's crystal with her finger. Upon coming into contact with that magic stone, an immense energy begins to swirl around the two. And after some time, the hero opens his eyes in an unknown place with his human body back to what it was before. Upon realizing that he has his hands back, Lin returns to the bottom of the sea very impressed. Furthermore, he notices that his incredible and charming face has returned, which makes him ecstatic. In any case, the mermaid warns that this is a temporary form and Lin doesn't quite understand what that means. Then the system informs that the human form is temporary because, in essence, the hero is still a fish. During this period, Lin will not be able to speak to anyone and will also have no combat abilities. But in any case, the boy remains happy because at least he looks like he did before. Without delay, he asks if he can go to the surface, and the mermaid explains that yes, as long as he returns before the transformation ends. In this case, the hero doesn't think twice about going to the surface, and having already spotted a warehouse, things become much easier. The lost items are also placed inside, which could make the place Lin's newest dressing room. In any case, the boy gets out of the water even though he's naked, and upon entering, he manages to find clothes of his size. Furthermore, he doesn't forget to take with him the wristwatch that was thrown into the sea. After that, as it's been a long time since he walked on land, the hero needs to get used to it again. Upon leaving the warehouse, the protagonist encounters the group of military personnel responsible for monitoring the river zone. As soon as they spot a civilian, they promptly inform him that it's a restricted area that has already been evacuated. With that, the hero indicates that he is mute but hears the man from before talking to Xiaoxu on the cell phone. This makes him desperate to also get in touch, and obviously, the military stop him. In this case, the man asks who the civilian is and what he is doing in this restricted area. However, one of the soldiers informs his superior that, as it seems, the boy cannot speak. In any case, Lin hands over the wristwatch to the captain, who upon opening it realizes it is an item belonging to his partner. In such a case, the man asks if the two know each other, and upon confirmation, he says he will deliver the object to the girl on Lin's behalf. However, at this moment, another person appears in their presence, curious about someone still being in this area. This is the team leader who just checked the east side of the city, but even though Lin wants very much, he still cannot make contact. That's because, besides being unable to speak, the dragon team is investigating the mutated creatures, and he doesn't know how long he will be able to maintain his form. In any case, the captain informs that a young man found this watch and asked to deliver it to the girl. However, upon opening it, Xiaoxu realizes the value and significance of it, and therefore promptly asks about the person who delivered it. But for the luck or misfortune of the two, the tourist from before disappeared without leaving a trace. In this case, the captain doesn't understand the reason for the girl's despair since she managed to find a personal object. Then the girl decides to return to work, but not before concluding that Lin Hao probably didn't die. With that, the hero apologizes in his mind to his girlfriend, but remains certain that he will explain everything at the right time. All that happens serve as a lesson to the hero because, as a fish or human, he can no longer live as a weakling. Sincerely, the protagonist ended up evolving into the human form by accident since his essence has not yet been fixed. This means that he must evolve into another creature, and for that, he must train to solve all these problems. Later, at the Longyun Research Center in a private room, it is asked if Xiaoxu has really decided to do this. And in response, the girl informs Elder Zhang that she has thought a lot and has already decided. However, the scientist does not fail to warn that injecting the high-concentration GT virus can pose high risks. And as a researcher, the Elder concludes by saying that she has no need to subject herself to this, However, Xiaoxui is determined to be transferred to the action team, so she again asks to try. With that, the elder asks if she is doing this thinking about memories of Lin Hao. Naturally, Zhang warns that the world is going through a crisis and there is no time for personal problems. But the girl replies that this is not the reason, since the research center never arrives in time, which makes them lose much information. Therefore, Xiaoxu informs that if she joins the action team, she can bring many advances with her. So despite not wanting to, this answer was enough for the elder to accept the request. Back in the middle region of the river, the hero is facing an immense pit and prepared to enter deeper waters. In this case, the system asks if the boy is thinking straight because the creatures of the deep waters are unknown and dangerous. And with that, the hero agrees, but he knows that he won't know if he doesn't try, and he is not thinking of running away from his fights. In the Huolong Lagoon, the hero Lin begins to explore the deepest part available. And for not yet being a predator at that level, the protagonist hides while eating small marine animals. Seeing this, the system questions the boy who was recently determined to explore but now shows a cowardly attitude. In response, the hero explains that this is a tactic to explore safely. After that fish, the system informs that evolution is available and Lin accepts without hesitation. After his evolution, the boy realizes that he can see everything more clearly, and this is due to the night vision ability that was acquired. The hero is now at level 8 with 1.5 meters and 45 kilograms, and besides that, a new map has been unlocked. In this case, Lin is curious about it and wonders if he can teleport using it. And upon opening the object, he realizes it is a complete map of the city of Longyan. The map shows many places, from the northern Hanshu River to the Dragon King Temple, which is about 5 kilometers away. There is also another location about 8 kilometers away, being a river outside the Longyan chemical factory. However, the hero doesn't know how he will use the map with these places, but upon saying this, the system asks if Lin wants to use teleportation. With that, even having a cooldown time of 1 hour, the hero is surprised to really be able to teleport using the map. Thus, he thinks that he has nothing to worry about and decides to test it before drawing a conclusion. Because of that, the system takes care of everything, and in an instant, the hero appears at the determined location. That was enough to make the protagonist happy because he finally unlocked a new menu. Besides that, the grass carp has a much better taste than those scavenger fish. And being a predatory fish in this region, the boy can prey on all of them with extreme ease. Then the system warns that Lin devoured an adult grass carp, which made him gain 90 points. 90 points are equivalent to 3 mutated fish, and so the boy remembered the horrible life he was living in Huolong. However, there weren't only small fish in this place, and before Lin, another sea snake could be seen. However, something else caught his attention because there was a huge carp in front of him. It resembled more a catfish, and since the system didn't warn him, they had power equal to or less than Lin. In this case, the boy thinks that this must be a mutated creature and one that will probably give him many evolution points. However, at the moment he tries to bite the fish's body, its skin proves too slippery for that. And soon the prey escapes with a tail strike that, despite everything, doesn't cause much damage to our hero. Thus, Lin realizes he was right about the fish's combat power and promptly activates his fire scales. With that, together with his tail strike, the boy manages to deal significant damage to the side of the carp's face. In desperation, it tries to bite the hero, but the fire causes it to burn. Then Lin seizes the opportunity and starts attacking the animal with his reinforced tail. Faced with this, the catfish tries to flee with all the strength it still has left. However, suddenly the system warns that the teleportation time limit has expired, and therefore the boy will return to Huolong Lake. But just before leaving, the boy comes across a very strange being in front of him that reminds him of what destroyed his hometown. Fortunately, the system sent him back at the right time, but that made clear the danger that the city of Longyan was facing. Even though he didn't want to return, Lin was still taken back, and upon arrival, he said the thing was very familiar. With that, the system informs that the boy can go back to see it again because there are 2 options. The first is to wait at the dragon pool until the teleportation is ready, and the second is to swim there. Obviously, with the boy's speed, he will turn into a small koi fish after arriving at the Cold Waters River. Furthermore, he will have to wait at the place until the next day to return safely. In this case, the hero says he has no time to lose and that he will check on his own right now. Upon reaching the surface, the protagonist hears a conversation between 2 people about a request to leave. The conversation is between the 2 captains, and Xiaoxi says that after finishing her work, she will leave the next day. So obviously, this statement arouses the protagonist's curiosity. The captain comments that since the elder brought her to the dragon team, he already knew she wouldn't be content with just studying dead creatures. In any case, the girl says that she has always been excited about her work since the first time she saw it. However, the more secrets she uncovered, the harder it was to maintain her original motivation. It is said that mutant creatures indeed represent a huge threat to public safety. But the GT virus that these creatures carry is not entirely useless for the general population, because in fact all members of the operational team were injected with small amounts to increase their physical strength and combat ability. However, to surpass their limits, the person must also choose to inject a high concentration of the same virus. In this case, the captain decides to say nothing more because to him, the girl is a true warrior. Then she replies that everything she is doing is for the sake of her beloved who is waiting for her. With that, she hopes everything goes well, and the hero begins to move. After a few moments, he assumes his human form and heads toward the woods. Recalling what he heard, the hero understood that his girlfriend joined the dragon team with the aim of researching mutant creatures. But now they are going on a mission much more dangerous than usual. The mutant creatures possess the GT virus, and this makes the protagonist wonder if he also has something like that. At that moment, the system appears and warns the boy to hurry because the human form lasts only 40 minutes. In this case, Lin ran a lot and commented that his conditioning was as if he hadn't run in a lifetime, which was indeed true. Anyway, despite being something strange, the boy feels much more comfortable in the water. So without delay, the boy starts devouring countless carp of different species, obtaining numerous gains. However, there was no school of fish daring to approach, which made clear the presence of one of the big ones. Furthermore, the water is very murky, which makes it even more evident that something is happening. With that, in a surprise attack, the mutated catfish from afore appears ready to devour Lin. However, encountering the carp was precisely our hero's desire, but still, something was different. That's because that fish didn't have as high killing intent as it does now. In this case, our hero now believes this is due to the grudge from their last battle. Therefore, Lin believes he must finish the fight quickly because he needs to investigate the disgusting monster that is nearby. So at the moment when the two clash with attacks, the boy gets the upper hand with his powerful tail thrust. This ends up creating a perfect opportunity for the hero to bite the animal in its most vulnerable part. And since the monster stops smiling, the boy believes his attack is working. Thus, Lin soon tears a piece of the mutated fish's body off with his sharp teeth. Unexpectedly, the flesh of that animal was very tasty, and if it weren't for the slippery skin, it would have been much easier. Anyway, the boy thinks that the animal acted strangely and differently from usual. But now Lin is more concerned with the amount of points he will receive, and the system also praises the taste of the meat. In a few moments, the hero devours the animal completely, and after eating, he comments that the taste resembles that of chicken. By devouring the catfish, 3,000 evolution points are given to the boy, leaving him surprised, and once again he can evolve. However, Lin quickly hears people talking about the existence of many fish in the region. One of the men suggests electrocuting them, so one of them goes to get the electric net, while another gets the net. But suddenly, the boys notice a commotion in the water that appears to come from a big fish. What they didn't expect was that the fish, despite being our hero, would also be a very frightening animal. In this case, upon witnessing the form of that monster, the three ran away screaming for their lives. And in light of this, the system warned that due to his action, the boy would definitely become a target of the dragon team. Later, at a local police station, the fishermen report everything to the officers. One of them says that the police are not understanding because a fish in the cold waters river jumped and was bigger than himself. This report, however, makes the officers have to hold back their laughter. But anyway, one of them asks the boy to continue, and the other asks if he saw it clearly. In response, the boys say they went fishing and didn't drink a single drop of alcohol. However, one of the officers reminds them that the Cold Waters River is closed for fishing, and yet they went fishing. In this case, all the boys realize they made a mistake by reporting it and apologize for the inconvenience. With that, they quickly leave the police station. And although the first officer doesn't believe them, the second recalls a similar report. Thus, he believes it is better to prevent than to remedy, as things have not been very calm lately. Back in the depths of the lake, the hero comments that they spent the whole night searching and didn't find the monster. Anyway, when viewing his status, he remembers that there is a reward when a task is completed. Thus, Lin comments that the panel is amazing and makes it easier to level up by being able to eat at will. With both tasks completed, the system asks if the boy wants to claim the rewards now. And all this was thanks to the fish that died in the electric current from before. In any case, the system warns that Lin has met the conditions to evolve, and he soon accepts to proceed. In this case, the mermaid commented that she always knew that the boy's talent was among the best. After evolving, the boy finally managed to reach level 10, and now remained to see what he had achieved. Among the skills that came out of the chest was an increase in all basic fundamentals and in some particular abilities. But one caught Lin's attention more, being the sharp horn, which was soon put to the test. Upon accepting, however, the boy began to feel an itch in his brain, but that was due to the horn that suddenly grew. However, it was still strange for Lin that a carp had developed horns as part of its evolution. But that horn still seemed quite sharp, and with the increase in his speed, it would certainly cause damage. With that, the hero states that when he reaches the Cold Waters River, he will test the power of his newest resource. In the conference room of the most important and relevant humans in the country, a meeting begins among the different anti-mutant groups. The captain from before, in turn, informs that they have sealed the place where the monster might be hiding. And then he adds that they will corner it in the delimited region to prevent it from escaping. With that, the leader comments that it will be good if they can resolve this issue quickly, as the city of Longyan has a large population. And knowing that an attack will result in a disaster, the captain asks not to worry since the dragon team will be responsible. In this case, the general leader understands and appreciates the man's hard work, but there is one more thing to mention. It is said that on this day, someone found the skeleton of a massive creature in the Cold Waters River. The skeleton is very complete and different from common fish, with large bones and sharp teeth. With this, Asura notes that this is the skeleton of a mutated creature, one that resembles a catfish. It is known that there are many grass carps and crucian carps in the cold river, which makes them think this is an invasive fish. Therefore, based on the shape of the skeleton, Lin's girlfriend believes this is a fish evolved by the GT virus. However, she also believes that there must be an even larger mutated creature in the cold river that ate this catfish. This causes chaos in the meeting, as many creatures are gathering in Longyan City. To eat a mutant of this size, the officials discuss among themselves that the creature must be enormous. In this case, Xiaoxu warns her colleagues that over time there will be even more creatures, and this is inevitable. The captain of the dragon group warns that there was a report from the station that someone saw a koi fish larger than a person in the cold waters. This happened last night, so their next target will be to hunt and kill this unknown mutated creature. Later, a wild boar approaches, not recently from the pond, to drink water. However, it had no idea that our hero was lurking, ready to pierce it with his new horn. In order to hide at the surface, Lin thinks that if he can pierce the boar's head, he will be able to kill it. Because of this, the boy waits for the right moment, and when the boar gets closer to the water, the hero takes the opportunity to strike. Fortunately, Lin manages to execute his plan without major problems, and soon the animal dies without even having a chance to defend itself. However, the boy's horn was stuck to the boar, and he couldn't believe this situation. In this case, he thinks it would be better if he grew limbs, but either way, the boy was right when he thought he could kill the animal with one blow. Then the system alerts Lin that he can still use his human transformation to get out of this mess. However, the boy explained that he wanted limbs to help him in battles, as his human form is too weak. Given this, the mermaid comments that Lin is different from before, as at the beginning he used to cry for not wanting to be a fish. In response, the hero says that the system is right because he has indeed gotten used to his new form. In any case, he believes it is more important to pay attention to what is in front of him now. However, after taking the first bite, the boy realizes that biting fur is very disgusting. Because of this, he thinks it's time to use another method to eat his prey. Then after burning the animal with his fire fins, Lin can eat properly. With this, the system transfers 350 points to the boy for eating a wild boar, which the protagonist finds too little for the difficulty. Either way, it doesn't matter to him, as he wasn't even thinking about eating boars before getting the horn. Moreover, tomorrow Lin will be teleported back, and in that place, he will be able to level up in just one day. Upon returning to Huapan, the hero becomes curious about whether the deep water creatures also hunt in shallow waters. But after spotting a huge crab in the area, the boy immediately attacks it, now declaring himself the owner of the place. Some time passes, and the hero notices that tourists have come to feed the fish again. Then, as he surfaces, Lin hears that there was an explosion in the eastern district involving the police and an unknown monster. In this case, the boy starts thinking about this monster that was seen in the Cold Waters River. With that, he asks the system if there are mutated creatures outside of the water, and is informed that all those infected by the GT virus undergo mutations. In this case, the boy asks if he can also mutate because of this. But the mermaid warns Lin not to compare himself to them since he has her by his side. With this, the boy feels embarrassed, and to change the subject, comments that it would be nice if he could feed on this mutant. This is because the hero imagines he might evolve into a great white shark, which would be a dream come true. Either way, the mermaid tells Lin to get back to work because they don't have time to waste. In this case, the boy is upset because even after reincarnating as a fish, he still has to complete the service schedule. But right after his complaint, the system notifies him that the hero has just leveled up and a new teleportation area has been unlocked. This new area is the river outside the Longyan chemical plant, and in addition, the usage time has been halved. Now the protagonist can devour new creatures while exploring this unlocked area. In this way, he thinks it's like a game because you get rewards, and the tasks keep being updated. In this case, since he already gained a horn, he believes he will evolve until he gets limbs. But the moment the boy decides to teleport to the area he unlocked, the place wasn't as good as he thought. Unexpectedly, the water quality was terrible with a slimy and disgusting feel. However, a conversation can be heard about the dragon team, and because they are at home, they need to hurry. Seeing this, the hero realizes that these people are not team members, as it seems they are competing. Soon he thinks that the dragon team must be the secret national organization that deals with mutated creatures. This means they handle all kinds of unidentified extraterrestrial life. And because of this, Lin becomes curious to know if there are other teams like this, but as he looks at the men, two crates catch his attention. One of the hooded figures comments that since they are here, it must be trying to awaken the ancient creature hidden in the city. Then the other warns that there must also be relics of ancient civilizations hidden in Longyan City. In this case, Lin hears everything and uses his camouflage ability not to get caught. And soon the duo continues with one saying that they must find the relics and obtain the advanced warrior equipment. Then when the global catastrophe happens, the group they belong to will become the strongest. However, at this moment, the boy's colleague reprimands him for speaking too loudly. But the man wasn't willing to listen, given that there wasn't supposed to be a living soul in a place like this. In any case, it obviously won't be convenient to have people around, and if anyone shows up, the boy will make sure to kill them. With that said, the hero thinks that these are definitely not good guys, but he finds it curious that no one has stopped them from walking around armed. Returning to the conversation, one of the two receives a message and then tells his colleague to get ready to move. This is because the dragon team has already narrowed down the target area, and besides, they sent many people this time. However, to the bolder of the two, they are still just a bunch of kids. In any case, the boy says that his brother Kun will get outfit number 3. However, Lin doesn't understand what this outfit is and wonders if it's some sort of mecha combat suit. Suddenly, the men's technological devices detect the presence of something, and this puts them on alert. In this case, Lin quickly leaves and realizes the hard way that the men's watch also detects mutant creatures. Therefore, he believes that compared to the dragon team's equipment, this one is much more convenient. Getting straight to the point, they ask if there are mutated creatures in the area, and one of the men responds that he's still not sure. So to clear their doubts, a device is activated in the case, releasing sword. Thus, the man delivers a vertical slash to the water, splitting the river in two and drying the affected part. Because of this, the heroes launch into the air by the pressure of that sword strike. And soon the villains see the protagonist in the middle of the river, understanding that it's one of those creatures. Without delay, Lin dives back in and tries to escape as fast as he can, but the men wouldn't let that happen. That's because more of that powerful virus could be found in the body of that animal. At the same time that Lin tries to swim away, the men chase him and praise the intelligence of the animal. Given this, the hero thinks that to carry such heavy crates at this speed, the two are definitely not normal humans. In this case, the protagonist activates his powerful tail strike, generating a massive whirlpool in the water. A few seconds later, the boy believes he managed to shake them off. Next, our hero thinks there's no reason to be nervous since he can teleport whenever he wants. Besides, he doesn't know who these guys are, but he remembers he's there for something more important. And since Lin is running out of time, he decides to eat all the tilapias first. By devouring some tilapias, the hero gains evolution points, currently at level 14 with a length of 3.3 meters. Aside from his size and combat power, there doesn't seem to be much change. But despite being a disgusting place, it still gives him some points. In this case, the protagonist asks the system to show the new tasks that are available. They are devour 100 cleaner fish, 200 catfish, 10 eels, and 10 mutated creatures. With 4 tasks, Lin understands that the difficult one is truly challenging, as it's hard to find so many mutated creatures in this place. But in any case, the hero knows he will continue evolving over time, making it necessary to take a nap. However, the teleportation time has increased as predicted after leaving the beginner's area. So, with no rush around, the boy decides to eat a little more, but something starts scaring the fish. Suddenly, something approaches at high speed, making the hero think it's another mutant. However, the unknown being turns out to be a simple human prepared for battle with a sword in hand. In this case, the boy notices that this is the same man from before, and now they are closer than ever. It becomes clear that the two humans managed to follow the hero to this region. Without delay, one of the soldiers attacks, and although the hero dodges, the man does not give up. At that moment, as he approaches the protagonist, he unleashes a burst of energy. Unexpectedly, the attack causes some damage to Lin's shell, but the result was far below what was expected. However, the hero is not willing to just take hits, and after activating his abilities, he enters the fight. Enraged, Lin doesn't even think about forgiving the man who dared to attack him with a sword. Therefore, the hero charges forward and manages to crack the warrior's diving mask. Since it's the same person from before, the protagonist continues his brutal attacks. But changing his line of thought, Lin believes this suit is very strange to make a human so strong underwater, and this human is convinced that he will wipe out the mutant fish with his sword. However, our hero counters the strike again, but this time with an even more powerful tail attack. Next, Lin goes for the warrior's arm and bites it using his sharp teeth ability. However, the armor was strong enough to prevent the protagonist from penetrating it. With enough time to react, the man used his sword to attack the hero with everything he had. So despite Lin continuing to try and bite, the blows started to cause him significant damage. In any case, the reason the hero let go was not out of fear, but due to the teleportation time. And in this case, he becomes even more irritated because he couldn't finish off these damn warriors now. After the fight, our hero returns alive but uncomfortable with the sharpness of that sword. Even unwillingly, the boy admits that with one more cut, his scales might have given in. The weapon the human carried didn't seem like an ordinary sword due to its combat power. Moreover, the armor he was wearing was the number 3 suit, making him think that technology had advanced a lot while he was away. Back to the main point, Lin remembers that something about ruins was mentioned, so he speculates that the swords and armors came from there. Logically, the boy thinks it's possible because the mutated creatures might be connected to the GT virus and the ruins. In this case, Lin thinks that a civilization came to Earth and left its ruins behind from which the virus originated. It becomes clear to the hero that the alien is behind this and that their goal was to reopen the ruins and awaken their ancestors. Given this, unfortunately, it's also logical to think that the world is going to face tough times very soon. Thus, all that remains for Lin is to evolve and get stronger as quickly as possible. After a few kills, the boy is engulfed in system energy and starts progressing. After just a few seconds, the hero is congratulated by the system for reaching level 15 and earning a blue chest. Unexpectedly, with his evolution, a night combat ability appears. This ability increases strength and perception by 10% during a nighttime fight. Although it doesn't seem like a major advance now as he gets stronger, it will have a greater impact. Back on the surface, one of the men asks where the mutated creature went. He then questions if the animal might have the power to teleport to other places. But promptly, his brother denies it, saying that such a thing is impossible. Changing the subject, the boy recalls that his brother's armor is a bit damaged. In this case, he explains that even though he worked hard to get the armor, it was bitten by the beast. Either way, the two still have a lot to do instead of standing around talking. However, the one who engaged in the fight believes there is something strange about the fish's intelligence, and this must be reported to the organization. In the city, people are talking about a lockdown that occurred in the Eastern Division, and civilians are already expecting the worst as the cause. But back at the Huolong River, our hero is quite relaxed as he just woke up from his sleep. At that moment, the system informs him that the daily tasks have been updated. This makes Lin realize that completing a task doesn't change the fact that it will still be updated. Moreover, the map has been updated, including a new place to explore. However, before he could test it, a strange feeling begins to envelop Lin's body. Sensing something big, the protagonist heads to the surface to check what's happening. Quickly, he transforms into his human form, and the system is unsure what to do with Lin. On Dragon Mountain, several soldiers are rushing to block the roads because a monster is on the loose. They know it's a very dangerous being, and at the same time, a few vehicles head out as reinforcements. Among those heading out is Xiaoxu, who is also pursuing the Dragon Mountain. In communication, a soldier warns that the stakes are high and they must surround the area to prevent the target from escaping. Additionally, traces of the L organization have already been found in the region, which is considered a group of madmen. In response, the captain agrees, saying only a madman would inject a virus that harms somatic functions into themselves. Either way, Xiaoxu mentions that the alien has already been injured and its combat effectiveness is low. Because of this, the captain is now more focused on paying attention to the GL group members. Knowing who he's dealing with, he has no hesitation about shooting these bad men. In this context, one of the possibilities is that the GL group wants to blow up the entire Dragon Mountain. Upon noticing the presence of a drone flying above them, Xiaoxu quickly orders everyone to activate their armor protection. Mere moments after the warning, a huge explosion occurs and the area is engulfed in flames. After dressing in the forest, Lin asks how the system knows which path to follow, and the mermaid responds that it's because she is a hacker. Either way, she questions why the boy wanted to come here so suddenly. In this case, he explains that when the explosion happened, he felt a mysterious force. Something that was resonating with him, and although the mermaid didn't understand, it was a fact. At that moment, the hero hears someone complaining about not being able to reach the organization because the communication had been cut. Even so, the person seems pleased that at least they managed to blow up the dragon group. Seeing this, the hero thinks that this duo seems to have a good relationship, so by following them, he might find the alien. Changing the subject, one of the warriors recalls the fish that destroyed the armor, and the other is indignant about it. However, now was time for the two to go after the alien, who is hiding so they can collect the rewards. With those rewards, they will be able to get another suit, so the older of the two spares no effort in the hunt. Lin, for his part, realizes that the man's speed on land is enough to defeat him. But suddenly, the hero hears a strange noise in the woods, and so he goes to investigate. Fortunately, the noises were coming from his girlfriend, Xiaoxu, who was taking care of some mutant eggs. Faced with this, Lin can't help but feel disgusted by the horrible appearance of the eggs, and he is soon scolded by the system. Either way, Xiaoxu reports that she has managed to locate the alien and sends the coordinates to her partners. However, at that moment, the warrior from the EL group appeared in the same spot where the girl was. Because of this, it became the perfect opportunity to take out one of the most influential members of the dragon group. However, before he could attack her, our hero quickly came to her rescue and stopped the combatant's arm. With not much time left, Lin knows he will need to resolve this situation in a single blow. Thus, the hero redirects the warrior's blade, causing it to pierce his own chest. Faced with this, the man realizes that the civilian in front of him is actually the mutant fish from before. With that, he smiles and pulls the sword from his chest, throwing it towards Xiaoxu. However, the girl manages to dodge, and at that moment, she realizes that her savior is actually Lin Hao. Without hesitation, our protagonist continues his assault, landing a punch right in the man's stomach. That punch generates a strong blue light, making it difficult for Xiaoxu to see. Taking advantage of this distraction, the boy jumps back into the river before giving any explanation. In the end, Lin leaves his girlfriend alone and confused, unsure whether she could truly believe what she saw. Despite fleeing, this was obviously not the protagonist's desire, but now their destinies are on different paths. In this case, the system gets emotional about Lin's forbidden love story, completely breaking the mood. In any case, the boy comments that when he was in human form, he felt different than before. Then the mermaid informs him that Koa's experience and mindset persist during transformation, Back on the surface, Shiatsu reports on the comm that the alien is missing and orders the group to search the coordinates. The mermaid overhears the conversation, so she asks where the alien could have gone. Lin replies that the alien must be looking for its spaceship, but inconveniently, they still don't know where it is, so the hero tries to convince the system to help him. In any case, the mermaid asks how she can find it, and the boy reminds her that she's helped detect things countless times before. In this case, Lin hopes she can detect electronic signals and sync with them. Thus, the system decides to try, and unexpectedly, it quickly manages to locate it. Lin then discovers that the alien is at the top of the mountain, so he knows there's no more time to waste. That's because the boy understands that they can't let it escape, as it could communicate with the rest of the alien. Near a stream by the mountain, the alien is drinking water from the river, until it notices some fish swimming near it. It then approaches each fish, feeding on parts of them. Nearby, the protagonist senses the smell of blood flowing through the river. As he gets closer to his enemy, he realizes the enemy possesses greater power than him. But without hesitation, he charges furiously toward the enemy, landing a direct hit on its head. The alien quickly grabs its weapon to counterattack, but the protagonist deflects the attack, sending the weapon flying away. The alien doesn't give up and stretches its arm to retrieve its sword, once again initiating an attack against the protagonist. In an attempt to defend himself, the protagonist uses his horn to absorb the enemy's blow, and then steps back to recover his stance. The alien's strike was so powerful it cracked the protagonist's horn. Now it's the alien who charges forward, furiously attacking the protagonist. Once more, the protagonist defends the attack with his horn, and then counters by launching another attack, tearing off one of the alien's arms while mocking its fragile body. The alien immediately becomes enraged, preparing to strike with everything it has. The alien attacks Lin Hao with all its strength, knocking him out. The mermaid desperately tries to wake Lin Hao, touching his unconscious spirit. She repeatedly shouts for him to wake up, until his consciousness starts to return. As soon as Lin Hao regains consciousness, the mermaid pleads with him to stop wasting time and give it his all, or he will die. The alien then charges at Lin Hao again, attacking him while he's within the barrier created by the mermaid, and slamming him into the reverb. The force of the blow was so great it created a huge crater around the protagonist. It had been a long time since Lin Hao felt as much pain as he did that day. Now the alien attacks again while questioning the protagonist's courage to ambush it. The alien strikes the ground with tremendous force. Lin Hao barely manages to dodge the blow, but his enemy quickly notices him escaping and grabs him by the tail, mocking his small fish-like form. The protagonist begins to emit power, burning the enemy's hand, leaving the alien confused, wondering what Lin Hao was planning. But Lin Hao responds that his enemy has no right to question him, and charges with all his strength against the alien, biting it while using his power to burn his enemy. He shouts that he won't let go, not even for a second. Lin Hao drags the alien across the river while burning it with his power, until the alien finally dies. Suddenly, some people approach the river searching for someone. Lin Hao becomes confused, unsure where they came from, but he quickly leaves the area, afraid of being captured and killed while still exhausted. Those men argue about not finding the person they were supposed to meet there. They say that if someone has killed the creature, they will hunt down and skin whoever did it. Lin Hao overhears their conversation and realizes he cannot let those men find him. He decides to take drastic measures regarding those people. But before that, he notices that his form has changed into a more humanoid creature in a forest amidst the mountains. Two guards are watching over the spaceship in the woods. While they talk, something emerges from the river and attacks them before they can even react, slashing their throats. Lin Hao steps out of the river in his lizard form. The mermaid questions why he is still there even after gaining the necessary evolution points. Lin Hao replies that he cannot let that spaceship remain in those people's hands. Inside the ship, we see a guard relaxing while listening to music as someone approaches from behind, suddenly falling in front of him, leaving him confused and unaware of what is happening. Out of nowhere, the protagonist pierces his body with his claws. The others nearby scream in fear upon seeing the protagonist. But without mercy, Lin Hao slashes them all with his sharp claws, leaving the place filled with bloody bodies on the ground. At that moment, he realizes his power has drastically increased since defeating the alien. He then reverts to his normal form, saying that it was his only choice to prevent those people from causing greater harm. In the control room of the spaceship, he observes the control panels, but he cannot understand any of it until he notices an object hidden beneath one of the panels. He grabs the small box and then leaves after obtaining what he wanted. Already outside the spaceship, Lin Hao stands still as he observes the ship. The mermaid asks why he is still there, and he quickly replies, saying he wants to know how the dragon team will contact him if they take that ship. The mermaid responds that there's no way to know when the dragon team will reach that area. At this moment, the protagonist says he has an idea of what to do. Shortly after, we see him moving away from the location, while the mermaid complains about his plan. But Lin Hao tells her to be quiet since she hasn't understood his plan yet. Everything around the spaceship is on fire. Then we see a soldier asking the dragon team captain what kind of creature could have done all that. The scientist responds that further research is needed to find the answer. Suddenly, one of the soldiers shouts, saying they found possible alien entrails. Upon hearing this, the captain wonders if the alien was devoured by someone else, or by another mutant creature awakened by the alien itself. At this moment, the woman recalls her last encounter with Lin Hao. However, she doesn't mention this to the captain. Instead, she says she doesn't believe it was another mutant creature, but she doesn't have a definite answer either. She then tells them not to overthink it and take advantage of the intact spaceship to capture and study it, because she knows that digging deeper into the matter might lead them to Lin Hao. The captain still complains about not finding the alien's weapon. Meanwhile, on the protagonist's side, we see him hiding some weapons at the bottom of a river, covering them with stones, while the mermaid complains about how he acquired more equipment but still hasn't figured out how to use it. Lin Hao then says that with his small arms he couldn't use weapons anyway, so he decided to store them. But now he feels more satisfied knowing that his evolution from a fish to an amphibian shows that his evolution can surpass species boundaries. Suddenly, a system message appears before him. It states that he will now have to devour much more dangerous and savage creatures and people. Seeing that message, the protagonist panics at the realization that his new missions are now at extreme difficulty levels. The mermaid says he should just skip the missions he can't complete. He then explains that skipping a mission is like leaving an entire page of a test blank. Afterward, the two decide to search for food. Shortly after the protagonist goes after new prey, we see the mermaid asking Lin Hao if he should be eating those mutant fish nearby. Simultaneously, we see a person dumping those mutant fish into the river with a bucket. Two people were casually throwing those mutant fish into the river while talking about going for drinks to unwind from work, until they hear a noise coming from the river. And out of nowhere, the head of a strange creature emerges from the river, shooting a jet of water from its mouth, which directly hits the two and tosses back the mutant fish they had just dumped in the river. Immediately, the two are startled, thinking it's a ghostly encounter. They'd run away, believing they're being haunted. Now the protagonist tries to understand if that was a move by the organization hunting him and what their plans might be. As he looks into the water, he notices something beyond the fish he had encountered earlier. However, he wonders if he's just imagining things. We then see that there are several mutant crawfish underwater heading toward him. They prepare to attack, and they charge at Lin Hao. Seeing the number of crawfish before him, an idea arises in his mind, which is to eat all those crawfish. The crawfish advance to attack, but Lin Hao simply sets them all on fire. Right after, he prepares to feast on the crawfish. As a result, he earns 100 evolution points. However, while eating his crawfish, a massive crawfish approaches to attack him. Barely, the protagonist manages to dodge a powerful strike. Underestimating such an enemy could prove fatal in this fight. Despite its size, the enemy launches a series of high-speed attacks, forcing Lin Hao to retreat. Then he charges with all of his strength against the enemy. But the enemy isn't foolish and quickly grabs his horns before he can strike, completely nullifying Lin Hao's charge. Lin Hao is surprised by his enemy's capabilities, but fortunately, his current form no longer relies on his horns to attack. So he grabs the giant crawfish's claws with all of his strength, immobilizing it. Then he strikes with one of his claws against the crawfish. However, the crawfish unleashes a powerful beam from its mouth to block the protagonist's attack. After blocking the protagonist's attack, the crayfish returns to counterattack, once again striking him with one of its claws. But Lin Hao loses his patience and begins to burn everything around him with his power, killing and cooking the enormous crayfish, finally devouring his prey. Shortly after consuming all the crayfish, Lin Hao receives a system message informing him that he has completed one of the missions, leaving him quite satisfied to know he completed a mission while having a meal. Opening the reward given for completing the mission, a strange power emerges from the box and flows into the protagonist. Afterward, he grabs the mermaid's attention and asks her to watch his new trick. An incredible red glow emanates from the protagonist. Then a powerful energy beam shoots out of his mouth. He remarks that his attack would be even more devastating out of the water, while the mermaid pleads with him never to use it in the forest. Lin Hao gets distracted by one of the dead mutant fish floating past him, and immediately takes the opportunity to eat it as well. He then speculates that the Logan City might be having problems with mutant fish. The mermaid warns him to be careful as two organizations are after him. Lin Hao begins to question why they released those mutant fish into the river, knowing that these fish take a long time to mature. He concludes they are trying to buy time. He leaves stating that someone is trying to keep the Dragon Pool team occupied for some reason. He then returns to the surface, reflecting on what is happening. Under no circumstances does he want Dragon Pool to be at risk, forcing him to leave the area. While running through the forest in human form with the mermaid following him, his companion asks where Lin Hao is headed, and he responds that he simply feels like eating some mudfish. Meanwhile, on the Dragon team's side, we see the organization investigating those releasing mutant creatures in different areas. The captain, enraged, vents his frustration about the mutant mudfish problem. He then calms down and orders all waterways in the area to be sealed off until further notice. Simultaneously, researchers are investigating another case. The investigation focuses on an unidentified winged creature, an extremely dangerous creature capable of releasing terrifying golden energy, generating intense heat around it. Researcher Liu questions whether they can locate and launch an attack on it. But another researcher replies that the creature is too fast and is no longer in the area, so an attack isn't feasible. Another researcher enters, stating the creature has likely crossed national borders and shifts the focus to a more pressing matter. He introduces Captain Liu as the head of the Longian branch research team and announces she has brought significant news. Liu declares they have obtained an intact alien spacecraft. The researchers quickly grow excited at the prospect of studying a fully intact spacecraft. Liu even remarks that aliens usually leave behind only debris, but this time, by some miracle, the craft is perfect. However, the chief researcher warns that human bodies were found nearby, bearing marks suggesting a mutant creature killed them. The researcher also mentions the absence of the sword, leading the others to speculate on what might have happened. Meanwhile, Liu wonders if the mutant creature they are discussing could be Lin Hao. The chief researcher then informs her that the Longian branch has detected signs of a mutant creature and is now hunting it to determine if it was responsible for killing the alien. Liu realizes she must act quickly and requests the professor prepare a GT virus injection for her immediately. The professor agrees to prepare the injection, but mentions a potential drawback. Without hesitation, Liu states she is ready to take full responsibility for whatever happens. We return to the protagonist's perspective in the forest. In his new form, he had spent the entire night cleaning the waters of the mutant fish that had been released. A huge sense of relief fills him as he sees the area finally free of mutant creatures, while his companion complains of feeling exhausted after witnessing him perform all that cleanup work. Lin Hao also admits he is struggling with the effort of purifying the waters while still being pursued by the dragon team. Seeing this, the mermaid decides to console him, pointing out that at least he leveled up by devouring all the creatures. Then another system message appears, alerting him of a new reward for the completed mission. Without much thought, he simply accepts the rewards. A massive energy surges from the chests, flowing directly into Lin Hao. Shortly after, Lin Hao says he feels itching as if a brain is growing in his head. Next, a system message appears, stating that he has just acquired a skill called Berserk, which will increase his strength for 10 seconds. Suddenly, the ground begins to tremble in the area where they are. The mermaid then says that the tremor has opened a cave nearby. Looking ahead, the protagonist notices a small cave that wasn't there a few seconds ago. Lin Hao even wonders if everything isn't too convenient since the cave is perfectly sized for him. Thus, he enters the cave, until, unexpectedly, he finds a dead end. He taps on the wall, which opens a hole, allowing him to see through to the other side. Peering through the hole, he sees a strange creature resembling a dinosaur. However, something else catches his attention even more. There's also a frozen T-Rex inside. Suddenly, the ice begins to crack. This throws the protagonist into a panic. After all, a powerful T-Rex is on the other side of the wall. Lin Hao then asks if the system can detect the creature's combat power. The mermaid says no life signal is being detected from the creature, but Lin Hao insists, saying he saw its eyes move. Then, moments later, the mermaid starts detecting something. The system announces that it has detected a nearby enemy signal. Suddenly, water starts entering the cave. Lin Hao remarks that it shouldn't be possible for water to enter the cave, suggesting that some water-controlling creature might be responsible. A strong current begins to form at the cave's depths. It creates a whirlpool heading straight for the protagonist. However, Lin Hao decides to remain calm and wait for an opportunity to escape. Now he wants to know who's trying to mess with him, so he propels himself out of the whirlpool. Once he escapes the whirlpool, he notices that everything is much calmer than he expected. Meanwhile, the whirlpool inexplicably begins to disappear. However, an unknown creature starts to emerge from the depths of the sea. What is about to appear is a high-level mutant creature. But upon seeing the creature, the protagonist becomes even more excited at the prospect of earning more evolution points. The creature immediately launches a bubble jet at the protagonist. Lin Hao doesn't take the attack seriously and simply dodges it while observing the bubbles pass by. To his surprise, the bubbles begin to chase him, until one of them touches his scales. It instantly causes a powerful explosion on his back. The explosion doesn't harm him, but could still pose a problem if it continues hitting him. Next, several bubbles explode around him. He then defends himself by using his fire attack to target all the bubbles. Now he questions the creature's audacity to mess with him, but tentacles begin to emerge, leaving Lin Hao even more confused, not understanding what's happening. He hypothesizes that the tentacles belong to a second creature working with the first to defeat him. The creature wraps him with its tentacles, but Lin Hao says he will now take the fight seriously. He begins burning the tentacle holding him, forcing the creature to release him as he mocks it. Without wasting time, the other mutant creature resumes attacking him with its bubbles. Lin Hao prepares to counterattack. With his body burning with power, he charges forward, destroying all the bubbles in his path, until he gets close to the mutant fish. He grabs it by the mouth, then launches a powerful energy blast directly into the creature's mouth, causing it to explode from the inside out. Seeing that his attack killed the creature, Lin Hao begins to devour the mutant fish. The mermaid warns him that other mutant creatures might approach due to the smell of blood, but Lin Hao says he doesn't care and will devour them all. A system message arrives notifying him that he earned 25,000 points from the creature he just defeated, which excites him even more. but the mermaid insists he should leave to avoid encountering an even more dangerous creature. However, Lin Hao replies that he wants to find the cowardly lizard that fled from him. The mermaid says there's a nearby base that creates mutant creatures and asks if he still wants to take such a big risk. Lin Hao, for his part, feels confident, believing he can teleport at any moment if things get dangerous. Shortly after, he arrives where the fugitive creature is. A huge ink cloud covers it, leaving only one of its tentacles visible, which oddly seems to be waving at the protagonist. Suddenly, a tentacle brushes past the protagonist. He looks back to see if he was mistaken. But when he looks forward again, he sees a massive crab eating the mutant octopus from before. The crab then notices the protagonist's presence and begins to exert an overwhelming pressure on him. His instincts tell him to run as fast as he can. Quickly, Lin Hao swims away. He tries to teleport while the crab pursues him, but the system notifies him that he's out of teleport range, leaving the protagonist with no choice but to flee until he gets within teleport range. At that moment, he recalls the mermaid's warning about the dangers of the sea. The crab continues its assault while the protagonist struggles to dodge. Even a simple scratch from the crab is enough to break his scales. Another attack from the crab targets Lin Hao, who, fortunately, manages to escape after desperately fleeing from the mutant crab. Lin Hao finally reaches the Longyan reservoir. The mermaid mocks his earlier statement about being able to teleport away whenever he wanted. He replies that he had no choice, as it was his first time in the open sea. He then asks why she didn't teleport him back to Hualong Lake, and she responds that he might have messed up the teleportation in his panic. The topic changes as Lin Hao notices a mutant fish in front of him. Those fish are multiplying rapidly and infesting the area. Lin Hao's solution is to unleash a burst of fire on the mutations. The two debate whether it's effective to keep using fire on such small creatures. While they're distracted, a great danger approaches. An enormous swarm of mutant fish capable of destroying a city gathers in that spot. Lin Hao feels compelled to try and kill all the creatures. Even he struggles to bear the sight of such a vast number of mutant fish. So he returns to the surface, prepares to unleash an even more powerful burst of fire, then starts setting fire to all the fish in the water, killing a large portion of the mutants. Afterward, the mermaid questions whether he did that to avoid drawing attention, but Lin Hao responds that people should be grateful for his actions. Seeing that there's no more marine life left in the area because of the mutant fish, the protagonist leaves. On his way, he encounters two people talking nearby. The two are discussing the mutant fish they had released into the rivers in the surrounding areas. One of them even says he hopes the rivers of Longyan City will be overrun. Upon hearing this, the protagonist becomes enraged at how casually they talk about innocent lives. One of them laughs, imagining how desperate the city's people must be. He then says their goal is to enter the ruins of the civilization while the people are distracted by the mutant fish. Camouflaged nearby, the protagonist questions if the T-Rex objective is also the ruin of civilization. One of the men pulls out a vial filled with mutants, justifying their actions as simply accelerating the land's evolutionary process. He then throws the vial into the water, saying he wants to see the people of Longyan City try to deal with the situation. But immediately the vial is thrown back, striking his head. His companion quickly prepares for a fight as he looks around to see who threw the vial. The protagonist appears before them. The man with the knife attacks immediately. Lin Hao defends himself, using only his hand to stop the attack. What he didn't expect was for the knife to pierce his scales. But with little effort, the protagonist pierces the man's chest with his claws. The man calls the protagonist a beast as he continues trying to stab him. Lin Hao responds by setting everything around him ablaze, incinerating his enemy's body until he dies. Turning to the second man, the protagonist intimidates him with his words. With a terrified look, the man says that he will die here. As Lin Hao prepares his attack, it's revealed that the man is recording everything with a hidden camera. Lin Hao warns the men that he will make them all pay the price for their sins. One of the men then removes his glasses and turns them toward Lin Hao. He laughs while still on fire and tells the creature before him that it too won't survive for much longer. In response, Lin Hao declares that he is eternal. Then both men are incinerated by the protagonist. As Lin Hao stares pensively at the two, the mermaid asks if he's thinking about eating them, but Lin Hao quickly responds that he finds the idea disgusting. What's actually troubling him is the possibility that Longyan City doesn't only contain those mutant fish from before. The mermaid suggests that perhaps the mutant creatures aren't being controlled by the ones they assume are in control. This makes the protagonist immediately think of the alien. He concludes that the alien from earlier was merely a harvester, and that the main force remains hidden. He then jumps back into the sea. Knowing that the enemy's plan is to awaken all the creatures of the civilization's ruins, Lin Hao now needs to return to the estuary to find a way into the ruins. As he swims back to the estuary, a strong dizziness overtakes him, causing him to gradually lose consciousness, until he finally passes out completely. The scene shifts to the Dragon Team's research room, where several scientists are gathered around a chamber. Suddenly, the chamber begins to open as if someone's about to emerge. Lu steps out of the chamber. When asked how she feels, she replies that her body feels much lighter than before. The scientist remarks that she also feels much stronger. He explains that a high concentration of the GT virus was injected into her bloodstream, and that since the virus was introduced into her body, she has been asleep for over 20 hours. It also informs her that they were recently attacked by another organization attempting to steal information about the mutant creatures. However, Lu seems unsurprised. She already knows about a group of lunatics who believe that injecting the GT virus into their bloodstream is the path to human evolution. Their belief is based on the law of the strongest, where only those who survive the virus can join their organization. During their conversation, the doctor mentions that this organization views the aliens as messiahs and believes that through them, humanity can achieve evolution. The doctor then uses ocular biometrics to unlock the research room door. He instructs Lu to find a blade that suits her well. Before leaving, Lu asks Dr. Chang if there's a difference between their organization and the L organization. Dr. Chang responds that the L organization acts out of self-interest, unlike them, who claim to be doing everything for the benefit of others. After hearing his response, Lu leaves the room. But before she goes, he informs her that they successfully captured the mutant creature they were searching for earlier. This makes her wonder which creature he is referring to. The scene transitions to the protagonist waking from his sleep. He is now trapped in a net, surrounded by armed men. The captain expresses his satisfaction at finally capturing the mutant creature, but he still questions why the creature looks so much like a dragon. Lin Hao, however, is simply stunned to have been captured by them. Seeing the protagonist captured makes the mermaid think his fate is to be taken to the lab and dissected alive, but he insists they should talk about the ruins. Someone approaches them, calling for Captain Zhao Chenkong. That's when Lu arrives on the scene. Her arrival shocks the protagonist. However, Captain Zhao quickly orders that he be sedated to ease transportation to the base. The soldiers prepare to shoot, but Lu tells them to stand down, noting that the creature isn't showing any signs of hostility. Suddenly, a familiar voice shouts her name. Her eyes quickly fill with tears upon hearing the familiar voice. She then asks if this is Lin Hao. At the same time, the captain confirms that the perimeter is secure. Lu Xu, however, can't stop thinking about Lin Hao. Lin Hao looks at his mermaid companion and insists he wants to speak. But the mermaid advises him not to reveal his human form in front of everyone. Lin Hao replies that he really wants to talk to Lu Xu. The mermaid urges him to remain calm and wait for her to free him from his bonds. Lin Hao repeats her name once more while pointing at himself. Lu Xu begins to approach him. With tears streaming down her face, she asks what happened to him during all this time. However, just as they are about to talk, 3 meteors fall from the sky. Lin Hao is the first to spot them and wonders what has fallen from the heavens. As they hit the ground, explosions erupt at each impact point. Immediately, the protagonist shouts, "Ancient ruins." Lu Xu quickly orders her team to contact headquarters to find out what's happening with the ancient ruins. She then states that the situation is urgent, admitting she still doesn't know what to do with him. Despite this, she says she trusts him. Then she cuts the net that was holding him captive, freeing the protagonist once again. After being released, the protagonist informs her that he will be waiting at the dragon transformation pool. Finally, he dives back into the sea, leaving Lu Xu standing there, staring at the water and reflecting on his words. Captain Zhao arrives, lamenting their failure to capture the creature but declaring his intention to pursue him again later. Lu Xu then orders her entire team to assemble and head to the ancient ruins. Meanwhile, on the protagonist's side, deep in the sea, the mermaid questions why they haven't gone to the ancient ruins yet. Lin Hao explains that the dragon team will need the sword he previously buried, because he fears that a fleet of aliens might have arrived with those meteors. Shortly after, we see him swimming through the sea, until fallen meteors over Dragon War City catches attention. The system immediately detects enemies in the area, but Lin Hao, who thought he had cleared the place of mutant creatures, now wants to discover where the detected enemy is coming from. Suddenly, he sees something emerging from the water. A golden energy sphere rises from beneath the waves. Seeing this, Lin Hao wonders why they are there if their target is the ancient ruins. We see the aliens trying to awaken something in that place. Their technology soon detects a life form nearby. The device registers a force even stronger than theirs. Simultaneously, the other alien asks what's going on. Then the two begin to notice something in the water, until the unknown creature leaps out of the water. It attacks with its claw, but the alien dodges easily, commenting on how the creature has awakened. The alien then states that the master of the creature is about to arrive. Lin Hao says he doesn't understand anything the alien is saying and declares he will simply kill him. Thus, Lin Hao unleashes a burst of fire at the two aliens. The second alien, witnessing this, comments that he doesn't believe they are the ones who awakened the creature in front of them. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battle, without much conversation, the protagonist charges directly at them. The alien tries to attack him, but he dodges upward, then grabs the alien's head and violently tears it off his body. Turning to the other alien, he asks if it still plans to fight him after that. Energy beams emanate from the alien as it points at Lin Hao. A powerful energy blast strikes Lin Hao, sending him crashing back into the sea. Even with his powerful scales, he feels pain from the attack. Suddenly, the seawater begins to behave strangely, forming a whirlpool in the ocean. Trapped inside the vortex, Lin Hao realizes that the alien controlling the sphere is responsible for creating these whirlpools. but he sees no issue as he is an amphibian. His only question now is where the vortex is taking him. At that moment, his mermaid companion reappears, creating a barrier around him. The two converse while the protagonist takes the opportunity to meditate. Meanwhile, on the dragon team's side, we see Lu Xui and Zhao discussing the alien ships that landed on Dragon Mountain. Captain Zhao asks Lu Xui to remain at the site to wait for reinforcements from headquarters while he leaves the team to conduct inspections. Only 2 T-Rexes have been found frozen in the ruins of Dragon War City. However, the team has been unable to break the ice around either of them for study. Based on this, Lu Xui speculates on the reasons the aliens would send so many spacecraft just to awaken the 2 T-Rexes. She deduces that there is another undiscovered ruin in Dragon Roar. She quickly calls Dr. Zhang to inform him that the aliens are pursuing a 3rd ruin that has not yet been found. Zhang answers the call and immediately asks her to coordinate with a new battalion of soldiers to protect Dragon Mountain. Then someone arrives and greets the two. It is Lai Yi, a captain of the Dragon Team's action unit. Beside Captain Zhao, a soldier asks if their calculations were wrong. Zhao tells him to wait because the base's calculations indicated that another batch should land in that area. Then another meteor is spotted falling nearby. Zhao alerts Lu Xui about the situation. Immediately after, they launch a missile at the meteor, destroying the spaceship that was about to land. Next, they begin searching for the debris of the ship. More explosions occur in the sky. Zhao then warns that they are about to encounter the enemy's main forces, but unexpectedly, they find a spaceship landed right in front of them. Arriving at the scene, everyone gathers around the ship. A soldier questions how the ship remains intact even though their missiles clearly hit. Zhao explains that their missiles should have at least scorched the ship. Inside the spaceship, it begins to open. Then an alien emerges from within and charges at everyone. Zhao quickly draws his weapon and starts shooting at the alien. The soldiers join him firing at the alien. However, the alien easily dodges their attacks and swiftly approaches the soldiers. It then slices one of the soldiers in half. Seeing what the alien just did, Zhao becomes enraged and prepares to fight. He draws his sword and rushes toward the enemy. But the alien also unsheathes a sword from its scabbard. It blocks Zhao's attack. Zhao declares that he will take the enemy down even if it costs him his life. He then shouts fire to his team. The team starts shooting from all sides, but the alien uses a barrier to shield itself. Afterward, the alien calls Zhao a pathetic native and claims its firepower far surpasses that of humans. A strange energy begins to emanate from the alien, but something moving at high speed approaches the two. As Zhao yells, challenging the enemy, something emerges from behind him and throws the alien far away. Lin Hao has just arrived on the battlefield. However, the enemy still mocks the strength of his opponents. It proceeds to attack the surrounding soldiers. Until a massive flame separates it from the soldiers, Lin Hao tells the creature not to underestimate him. Afterward, he charges at the alien. The alien attempts to defend itself with its sword, but the sword is broken by the protagonist's bite. The alien then asks what kind of creature the protagonist is and who awakened him. Without responding, Lin Hao strikes his enemy, ripping off one of its arms. He then grabs it by the neck and declares that he has no connection to the alien species. Now Lin Hao demands to know the purpose of the aliens coming to this place, but the alien only laughs, saying the hunt cannot be stopped. Lin Hao interrogates it further, trying to understand what it means. When it seems like the alien is about to say something, a high-speed arrow suddenly approaches. Lin Hao dodges to the side, but the arrow still pierces the alien's head. After this, the protagonist looks back, searching for who fired the arrow. Nearby stands a mysterious man holding a bow. He announces that he is there to support the others while aiming his bow at the protagonist. Lu Xui, coming from behind, shouts that the man is Captain Li and that there's no need to fear him. Lin Hao quickly deduces that she shouted this to alert him that the man is an ally from the main headquarters. She then grabs a flash grenade from her hand, throws it into the air, and shouts for Captain Lai to be cautious. Shortly after, Lai Yi notices that the creature that was there has disappeared. With the danger past, the three regroup. Lu Xui then requests the medical team be brought in to assist Zhao. Zhao thanks his comrades for their help as he is taken to the medical team. A little later, far from the scene, Lin Hao was alone gazing at the moon and reflecting on what happened. The mermaid asks what he learned from the alien and what his plan will be moving forward. The protagonist recalls the alien saying that they don't even consider humans prey, but instead see the blue star as a massive hunting ground. The aliens view everything as grand entertainment and awaken mutant creatures purely for the thrill of the hunt. Amidst all of this, Lin Hao was part of their little game, with his head being hunted by 3 different groups. Additionally, it seems that the Dragon Transformation Pool and Dragon Mountain are connected by a route, which is why he managed to arrive there so quickly. He then recalls a time when he was trapped in the whirlpool, the moment he gained new skills after evolving. One of these skills was Dragon Rage, which increases all his basic stats for 10 seconds. Since it also has a passive ability that ignores cooldown time when he is gravely injured, Lin Hao sees great utility in this skill. This also reminds him of the ability he gained earlier when he was lucky with the system's mission rewards, the skill to scan his opponents. Thus, his memories end at the moment the whirlpool stopped, having already carried him to the lake of Dragon Mountain. In the present, the protagonist, thinking about the alien's words with the mermaid, suggests that perhaps the aliens believe he and the other mutant creatures are the same. As such, they are trying to force him into Dragon Mountain to be within their hunting grounds. Now the protagonist finally realizes that in the aliens' view, everything and everyone on the planet are just part of their games. Suddenly, a loud noise is heard. Lin Hao concludes that only mere soldiers have been sent to Earth and that the true hunters have not yet arrived. His mission now is to eliminate the entire vanguard, which is only there to prepare the field for those yet to come. But a massive earthquake begins, making him think they are trying to destroy Dragon Mountain. A huge crack forms in the ground before him. From it, an enormous creature emerges. Simultaneously, on the dragon team's side, a defeated alien tells Lai Yi that a dangerous, dormant creature resides in that place. Captain Lai simply asks what their objective is. The alien replies that the creature will soon awaken and kill everyone. Without mercy, Lai Yi decapitates the alien after its final words. But immediately after, another alien appears behind him, ready to attack. However, it is sliced in half before it can do anything. It is Captain Lu who arrives, asking him not to fight alone. He replies that while he dislikes fighting alone, he also doesn't like how the Dragon War Division operates in the field. Lu Xu questions what he means by those words. Lai Yi then responds that he knows she intentionally let the previous mutant creature escape, but they are interrupted by the alien, saying there's no way they could obtain advanced alien armor. After hearing this, Captain Lai states his desire to capture an alien like this one to interrogate and extract more information. Out of nowhere, a powerful roar is heard by everyone, a roar so intense that it stuns both of them, while the alien merely laughs at the situation, warning them that reinforcements have arrived. On the protagonist's side, a giant worm emerges from the ground. It is a mutant earth dragon. Using his new power to scan, the protagonist identifies its species and combat power. After discovering its type, Lin Hao mocks the earth dragon, calling it just an earthworm. The earth dragon then attacks him. Lin Hao calmly dodges to the side, but he realizes that if he gets hit by the dragon's attack, it will cause significant damage. The worm attacks again. A series of strikes are launched by the worm as Lin Hao dodges every one of them. This makes Lin Hao wonder how the worm knows his exact position to attack. However, the worm begins to speed up, leaving him no time to think. Now he barely manages to dodge the attack, but immediately after, the worm strikes with its tail, hitting him squarely and sending him flying, destroying everything in its path. Lin Hao doesn't even have time to react to such a fast attack. The worm now captures him with its mouth, and then slams him to the ground with immense force. The blow is so strong that it creates a crater in the ground. Refusing to give up, Lin Hao rises again, laughing at the worm's attack, because now it's his turn to strike. He charges at the worm with all his might, bites it and breathes fire on the enemy. But the worm throws him away with its counterattack. Lin Hao realizes his enemy has grown even stronger. Using his scanning ability, he can see that the creature's combat power keeps rising. Once again, the creature charges at him. But Lin Hao declares that he knows what the creature is doing. At that moment, he activates Super Rage, and he tells the worm that now both of them have activated Dragon Rage. After activating Dragon Rage, the protagonist enters a state of fury with an increase in his strength, making him capable of stopping the worm's charge with just his hands, and then counterattacking his enemy, slamming to the ground with such force that he ends up knocking the creature unconscious. With his enemy knocked out on the ground, Lin Hao slices it apart with his sharp claws. However, even after the worm is already dead, Lin Hao's fury doesn't subside and he continues slicing his enemy. Time passes and he keeps going, not resting until there's nothing left in front of him. He doesn't stop tearing apart the Earth Dragon. Shortly after dismembering the Earth Dragon and eating as much of its flesh as he could, Lin Hao now sighs in exhaustion after all the effort. He even comments that he didn't expect the worm to be so heavy. Thus, the protagonist falls asleep and the mermaid appears to clean up his mess. She then places a barrier over him to protect him while he rests. With the Earth Dragon dead, the protagonist gains 120,000 evolution points. Seeing this, the mermaid wonders if he's lucky or unlucky. On the other side of the mountain, Lu Xu and Lai Yi walk by the Dragon Mountain Lake, with Lu Xu complaining about the aliens blocking their communication signals. Meanwhile, the alien laughs at them, trying to scare them by mentioning the dangerous creature that has awakened. Suddenly, Lu Xu stops walking and Lai Yi asks why she stopped. She responds that there's an alien ahead who seems to have been waiting for them. The two prepare for battle. Lai Yi attacks first, but his sword is broken when he strikes the enemy, leaving him deeply shocked by what just happened. With only its fist, the alien strikes Lai Yi, throwing him far away. Quickly, Lu Xu rushes to help him. She then tells him to rest and try to contact headquarters while she takes over the fight. Lai Yi asks her to hold off the enemy for as long as possible until reinforcements arrive. Lu Xu charges at the alien. The alien defends against her attack with little difficulty, then moves behind Lu Xu. It delivers a deadly attack on her, but fortunately, she manages to dodge backward and distance herself from the enemy. It takes only a short time fighting for her to realize she's vastly inferior to the alien. But the alien doesn't give her time to think and quickly charges at her again, delivering a vertical slash with its sword that sends Lu Xu flying. It then immediately moves toward Lai Yi, attacking him before he has a chance to defend himself. Suddenly, an intense blaze filled with flames appears in the battle. Lai Yi asks who is there, but no one answers. After the blaze disappears, a silhouette briefly appears before him, then vanishes along with the alien. Confused, Lai Yi wonders if that was a mutant creature. Lu Xu then says that it's a friendly mutant creature and asks him not to report it to headquarters until she can explain the entire situation. Lai Yi agrees but mentions he can't keep quiet for too long. Shortly after, on the other side of the lake, the protagonist emerges from the water carrying the alien, and then hurls it against a wall. The alien, however, assumes that the creature is one of its kind, awakened to assist it. Lin Hao laughs and calls it an idiot, then begins burning it while asking if the alien was expecting the dead worm. But he quickly adds that he'll make sure the alien joins the worm inside his stomach. Sitting on the cliff while watching the dawn, Lin Hao complains that the alien's meat tastes like rubber, and the mermaid asks if he's ever eaten rubber in his life. He responds that if eating rubber leveled him up, he'd have already finished off all the vehicles in Longyan. A system message appears showing that 2 missions have been completed. He celebrates having completed them, then receives the mission rewards, which makes his eyes seem more energized than ever. As he opens his eyes and looks ahead, his vision becomes incredibly sharp, as if he were looking through a telescope. He can even see people from a great distance. Even his breathing feels better. Now Lin Hao reflects on how the Sea of Longyan can no longer handle the number of ships descending from space. The mermaid then asks what he plans to do next. Lin Hao responds that he underestimated the capabilities of the Dragon team and the L group and will now need to reevaluate them. For now, it's better to assist them on the battlefield. Meanwhile, inside a cave, we see the mutant T-Rex still frozen. A group of scientists is studying it. One of them tells Lu Xu that more cracks are forming on the T-Rex and that the creature may be about to awaken. But Lu Xu surprises them by stating that it's still unclear if it's truly waking up. According to her, the ice breaking might not indicate the creature is awakening since no signs of life have been detected. When asked if it would be better to call the other teams back, Lu Xu explains they are waiting for the new armor to be sent from headquarters before returning. Suddenly, someone arrives in a panic bringing bad news. They report that the L organization has leaked their research data to the public. This news only further angers Lu Xu. But Lai Yi arrives, suggesting they quickly end everything to avoid further issues with the public. He brings with him a case that catches Lu Xu's attention, identifying it as level 3 equipment. He explains it was found in the mountains. It is gear left behind by the alien group Lin Hao had previously cleared out. Lu Xu decides to open the case. Inside, she finds a sword crafted with highly advanced technology. She notes that such armor sets are only found in ruins, with level 3 sets being the easiest to find. Lai Yi adds that level 3 suits can only be selected from the depot at headquarters, while level 2 and above must be obtained through ruin trials. No one is prohibited from attempting the trials, but very few survive and complete them. Lu Xu asks how many suits he has managed to acquire. Lai Yi responds that he has obtained 5 of these sets. Lu Xu makes a pointed comment, but he replies that he cannot break the rules, even given their current situation. She turns serious and asks him to trust her. They are interrupted by a researcher reporting that the aliens are using low-frequency ultrasound to awaken the creatures. Meanwhile, the protagonist feels something calling to him. He begins to see colorful lights around him. A sphere at the center of these lights catches his attention. When he touches it, the sphere inexplicably disappears. The mermaid appears before him, trying to get his attention. But Lin Hao stands still, staring into the void. He then tells the mermaid that he just resonated with someone. Lin Hao leaves while the mermaid complains about being too tired to follow. The protagonist suspects the L organization placed that metal ball earlier to deliberately assist the aliens in awakening the dormant mutants. The mermaid keeps talking to herself until she realizes he's been gone for a while. So she goes after him, camouflaged near the cave housing the dormant mutants. Lin Hao observes that the T-Rex has not yet awakened. The mermaid asks if there's a traitor in the L organization, and the protagonist suggests there must be someone trying to help the aliens. Someone approaches while they are talking. The soldier looks around suspiciously. This raises their suspicions. The soldier continues on his way. The protagonist watches him from afar. Now inside the cave, the soldier says that if more awaken, his mission will be complete. A fireball flies toward him, hitting his hand and causing him to drop the stone he was holding. Then a massive shadow looms over him. He grabs his weapon and begins shooting, yelling for the monster to die. In response, the protagonist remarks that compared to this man, he shouldn't be called a monster. The soldier believes the protagonist is one of the monsters awakened by the alien's ultrasound. After this, the soldier pulls the pin from a grenade on his back and places it directly in front of them. Then he detonates it, blowing himself up along with the protagonist. Lin Hao emerges unscathed from the explosion, but shortly after, he hears a loud sound coming from inside the cave. Suddenly, the entire cave begins to tremble. Inside, a massive army relentlessly attacks the mutant creature. A tank fires at the creature, creating a huge explosion in the area. Afterward, Captain Lee orders a ceasefire. The soldiers stop shooting, hoping the creature is dead. A heavy tension fills the air, until the creature reveals is still alive even after all the attacks. Seeing that the creature was still alive, Luo Xu ordered everyone to attack again. The T-Rex entered a state of fury. Since the bullets weren't working, Lai Yi fired his bow at the T-Rex. The arrow aimed for its eyes, but the attack didn't cause any damage to the creature. Lai Yi was shocked that an attack to the eyes had no effect. However, Luo Xu told him to keep trying until he caused some damage. Once again, Lai Yi attacked the creature's eyes with his arrows, until finally he managed to cause some damage. The creature then furiously charged at the soldiers, trampling everyone in its path, giving them no chance to escape. Luo Xu said she would try attacking with her sword made of otherworldly metal. Hearing this, Captain Lei ordered everyone to retreat. Soon after, Luo Xu told him to clear everyone from the Longshan blockade and execute the final plan if necessary. The mutant T-Rex then charged at the two, but suddenly a massive blast of fire sent the T-Rex flying, dealing significant damage to its flesh. The protagonist arrived next, biting into its jaw. However, the T-Rex flung him away with its tail. Quickly, Lin Hao recovered as he couldn't feel pain in his state of fury. While the T-Rex focused on the protagonist, Luo Xu approached from behind. She attacked it with her sword, causing a small wound on its tail. She then threw the sword to the protagonist, shouting for him to aim for the eyes. Lin Hao caught the sword. He leaped toward the T-Rex to attack with the sword, but the T-Rex shattered the sword with its bite, stopping Lin Hao's attack. So Lin Hao retaliated with his fiery breath, aimed directly at the T-Rex's eye, challenging it to break his fire. Suddenly, multiple danger warnings from the system appeared around him. Looking up, he saw several missiles heading his way. He questioned if they were trying to kill him after all this hard work. The missiles hit, causing a massive explosion inside the cave. Suddenly, we see Lin Hao in human form attacking the T-Rex with Luo Xu's sword. His attack wasn't strong enough to cut through the creature's thick skin. The T-Rex countered with its tail, inflicting significant damage to his body. Now injured and lying on the ground, Lin Hao wondered if he would die again. At the same time, more missiles rained down on him, but he began to awaken in his dragon form. The mermaid slapped his head, calling him crazy. Afterward, he realized he was back at Hulong Lake. The mermaid explained that he had fallen into a coma after his fury state ended, and she had teleported him out before the explosion occurred. She added that the T-Rex likely survived because of its tough skin. She also mentioned that he had been asleep for a full day and night after the incident. Understanding the situation, Lin Hao decided to return to check what had happened, activating the teleportation to Dragon Mountain. Shortly after arriving at Dragon Mountain, Lin Hao swam at high speed back to the site of his last battle. When confronted about his motivation to return, he said he was only going back to ensure the dragon team didn't take his chance to eliminate the creature. In Lin Hao's mind, the creature was likely recovering from its injuries by the riverbank. Then he found the creature again. A pile of dead animal bodies lay near the river. The creature was feeding on them to recover. Lin Hao approached in camouflage mode, then activated his ability to ignite his scales. The T-Rex immediately sensed his presence, but Lin Hao charged at high speed, biting into its leg. The T-Rex felt the pain of the attack. It quickly grabbed the protagonist with its mouth. To its misfortune, that was part of the protagonist's plan. He then activated more of his abilities. Now inside the T-Rex's foul-smelling mouth, the protagonist began burning it from the inside out. After his attack succeeded, the T-Rex lost consciousness and fell. Finally, it died for good. Covered in saliva, Lin Hao complained about the awful smell. The mermaid, for her part, expressed disgust toward the protagonist. But Lin Hao said she wasn't appreciating the greatness of his actions. Shortly after, he began devouring the creature. Meanwhile, in a hospital in the city, Luo Xu and Lai Yi were being treated in a room, until, simultaneously, both received a call. They answered at the same time, and they both react the same way to the call. Both received the same call from headquarters, asking them to explain the appearance of the second creature. Luo is then confronted by Lai Yi, who demands to know what she knows about the creature that helped them. However, they are interrupted by Zhao entering the room. Zhao arrives, announcing that a real dragon has been found in Hulong Lake. Luo Xu is puzzled by the presence of a dragon near the city. She is then shown an image captured by the organization's radars of a creature. We see a series of messages about the appearance of a dragon in Hulong Lake and people commenting that it is a dinosaur or something like that. A girl walks while looking at messages on her phone from someone claiming to have taken pictures of the dragon with a drone and saying it was a mythological creature. Then she opens the photo for us to see, and indeed, it looks like a mythological dragon with a long tail. We then see the same photo enlarged on a big screen, clearly showing the features of a mythological dragon. Three people are at a long conference table talking with the image displayed on a wall screen while a man asks a woman what she thinks it is. The girl says it could really be a mutant creature or some kind of reptile, but that the possibility of it being a dragon should not be completely ruled out. The man agrees, saying that dragons were the first creatures to mutate, and the girl starts questioning why Hulong Lake. Then the older man says that the most important thing is to calm the public and not let public opinion become a disadvantage for them. The other man present says that the military front can claim it was a training exercise and the civilian front can say it was the recording of a movie using holographic projections. The woman then says to erase all content about it from the internet and that things come and go very quickly there and the public will soon forget. At the lake, we see a creature emerging from the water saying there should be no one else around at that time, and a mermaid laughs and tells him to show himself because something has changed. We see the dragon's stats while he says who would have thought that a mutant Tyrannosaurus Rex would give 110,000 evolution points and that he ascended after catching them. The dragon goes on saying that if he had known there was an unawakened Tyrannosaurus Rex in the ruins earlier, he would have eaten it before. Our dragon is happy to have evolved from a salamander to a flood dragon, and that one day he will become a dragon, and the mermaid says he didn't even need a dragon portal. He agrees that he doesn't need to go through any dragon portal, but says he will need to head to the dragon mountains again, and the mermaid says he's great at causing trouble. Then we see both of them looking at the mountains. The dragon lifts a large stone with both hands. That he throws it back, saying he will have to explore and won't be able to blow everything up at once because those are remnants of civilization left behind by aliens. He also says it's a good thing he can transform into a human and save energy, while the mermaid asks if he already got tired after lifting a few little stones. Suddenly, a rat runs past them, and the dragon gets startled and asks where that little rat came from. Then he notices something in the opening he made when he removed the big stone from the mountain. A flood of rats starts coming out of the open cave toward them. The dragon wonders if those rats are from the ruins, and the mermaid says yes, and that it looks like they partially achieved their goals by awakening mutant creatures. He transforms into a human and crouches down to enter the hole in the mountain wall. Upon entering, our dragon is amazed at the sight of several giant tanks with creatures inside them apparently sleeping or inert. He also says that the two Tyrannosaurus Rex at the entrance were shocking, but he never imagined that there would be several extinct species from long ago in there. The dragon says that judging by the size of the creatures, it must all be mutants, and the mermaid, who appears by his side, says yes, and that there must be others like them around. Then they hear someone inside the caves talking and informing a person called Master Luo that there is an entrance over there. Then our dragon hides and watches as he sees a group of people approaching that room from a distance. The woman says that the exterior of the mountains is very solid and hard to break, while a man in front of her says that inside there are several tools they don't know how to use. He then, upon getting close to one of the tanks, says that that civilization was much more advanced than they could have imagined. One of the group members is approaching the tank behind which our dragon is hiding. He then asks the rest of his group if that is what remains of the civilization and if it was left behind by the aliens. The group members all gather in the room, and one of the men answers the question saying that it probably wasn't just that. According to speculation, before humans existed on Earth, a much more advanced civilization arrived and ended up leaving those relics. Then the group discusses the intention behind the aliens' attacks, whether they wanted to attack the city or just awaken those creatures, but the leader says they are there to equip themselves. Our dragon hears the group's conversation and remembers the attack. As the group leaves, he thinks that no matter what, he will protect Xiaoxui. The dragon then says that by devouring a mutant Tyrannosaurus Rex, he gained 110,000 evolution points and sees that there are many mutant creatures there. He becomes extremely happy thinking about how much evolution he will gain there. The mermaid then tells him not to get too excited and to use his detection skill to take a good look at the animals. The dragon then looks at the creatures more carefully. He is then surprised to see that all of them are dead. The dragon then asks if unawakened mutant creatures do not give evolution points. The mermaid says they have no choice but to watch all that fortune slip through their hands. We then see a system window showing that he received an item after devouring the mutant Tyrannosaurus Rex. Our dragon says that he always received skills randomly before, but now he even has a progress bar. He then opens the reward chest in front of him and obtains corrosive claws. Looking at his claws, they emit a different glow. He raises one of his hands to the sky and says that these claws seem much sharper than his previous ones. Then he says he will test them. By striking the wall a few times, he uses his new claws to test how powerful they are. Seeing the state of the wall, he says that missiles couldn't even scratch the stone, but not only did he manage to do it, the claws are also corrosive. He then thinks that if he had faced the Tyrannosaurus Rex with those claws, he wouldn't even have needed to bite it. He would have been able to cut it into pieces with just his hands. The system then shows him a symbol, and he wonders if there are still more rewards. The dragon clicks on the new icon in the system window with his new claws. A map then opens for him, looking like a volcano. Suddenly, something magical opens under his feet, surprising him. A great glow appears at the bottom of the lake. The dragon then, recognizing where he ended up, asks the mermaid how they got there, and she says she has no idea. She then says that if he can only obtain the mythical iron scale within the vicinity of the lake, then there is only one possible region. He and the mermaid then start heading toward the bottom of the lake. As he begins to descend, he wonders why that place is so quiet and thinks it's best to prepare because something is not right. The dragon looks toward the bottom of the lake but sees no creatures or anything. Then he thinks and wonders if something got rid of all the creatures at the bottom of the lake. Suddenly, dust begins to rise and he wonders if that thing is coming toward him. Rocks then begin to rise toward him as more and more dust starts to lift. The dragon then puts his hand in front of his eyes when a bright flash appears. He then thinks that the area below opened up as he sees a brilliant blue whirlpool rising before him. With a wary look, he thinks that this is not good. We see a huge pair of glowing eyes appear inside the brilliant whirlpool. Then we see a creature resembling an eel called a mutant axolotl, a level 4 mutant creature with a combined power of 778. The creature and the dragon stare at each other as the beast emits a sharp sound into his ears. The dragon thinks he can't see anything because of the massive amount of bubbles. The beast opens its mouth and releases a powerful energy beam toward our dragon. The dragon in turn releases his own powerful energy beam toward the axolotl. The clash of the beams causes a huge explosion underwater. In the middle of the explosion, both are thrown backward after the beast hits the dragon. He positions himself in an attacking stance and thinks that the beast is not afraid of fire and that you will truly test how strong that eel is. Our dragon then shouts at the beast that they will see who will have the last laugh. The mutant eel wastes no time and uses an ice beam that goes toward our dragon. He then thinks that this is the first mutant he sees capable of spitting ice from its mouth. The beast then charges at him while he flies toward it, saying that it is time for it to meet its maker. They collide, causing a loud boom, pushing the water away from them for a few seconds. Our dragon bites the creature's arm and thinks he didn't imagine it would be so cold and that the other deep-sea creatures probably escaped. We then see a frozen claw coming toward our dragon. It hits him directly in the stomach, with a small icy glow of energy around the fists. The dragon takes the hit but doesn't seem to feel much as he asks the beast if it also has sharp claws. The beast just stares at him, not answering any of his questions, while its red tentacles fill with energy. The creature then prepares its red tentacles and launches its attack, piercing the dragon's body. The dragon then exclaims that it hurts. He then uses his fire attack to push the beast away, breaking some of the tips of its tentacles as it backs off to dodge. Soon after, it begins regenerating the tips of its tentacles while retreating from the attack, and our hero thinks the mythical iron scale had better be worth it. Seeing the beast retreat from his attack, he thinks he was worried about the side effects of using his super fury and the existence of other creatures in the lake. Then, while thinking that he might not survive if he doesn't use it, he starts to be enveloped in red energy and his claws begin to fiercely energize. Then he explodes in red energy and shines intensely. The axolotl with its burnt tentacle tips grabs onto a nearby rock while watching the dragon. It then uses the rock to propel itself forward for its next attack, while our dragon does the same, wrapped in fire and energy. They collide in a wave of fire and ice energy as the dragon asks which one of them will be stronger. We see axolotl coming out, clearly burned from the energy clash with our dragon. The dragon then asks how it is going to heal now and says that with regeneration and ice powers without his super fury, he would have been cooked right there. The beast then turns its back and begins retreating into the abyss. Our dragon starts chasing after it. He lands a blow on the beast's back while asking if it was trying to escape. The creature then, with ice coming out of its eyes and mouth, clenches its teeth in pain. Our dragon has his claws deeply buried into the beast's body, and we see ice and fire coming out of the holes where the dragon's claws penetrated. The creature begins generating ice energy around its mouth, preparing another attack. Suddenly, it turns around and uses its ice beam at point-blank range on our dragon. He then moves his other hand very quickly and closes the beast's mouth with his claw. Then, with fury in his eyes, he focuses his power, and with monstrous strength, he splits the monster in two with his powerful claws. Then he looks from above, still in his super fury form with energy around his arms. Panting from exhaustion, he says that finally the monster is dead, that he pushed himself too much in this fight, and that he needs to rest. He begins to close his eyes and relax. His vision starts to blur, and he begins to pass out, feeling sleep overtake him. The mermaid appears behind him, saying that she always has to clean up after he makes a mess, obviously giving our dragon a huge scare. We then see the huge conference table with 4 people there. Someone says that the organization is extremely interested in that mutant creature, and after much consideration, they made the decision to find and capture that monster. The blonde boy asks the woman if she already knows what she will say. She then puts her cell phone on the table and says that she will tell the truth. She then stands up and says that she knows that mutant creature. She goes on saying that it has saved them countless times and has never been hostile toward them. The boy continues saying it's true and says that during the operation in the Dragon Mountains, that creature showed up at the right time and helped them a lot. The other man on the opposite side of the table says that would be excellent news if the creature were truly on their side. He goes on saying that the mutant creature is not trustworthy and that they are not willing to bet it will always stay on their side. The girl then proposes that they just track it without capturing it. The man on the other side of the table asks what the point of that would be. She says that thanks to that creature, they discovered a large number of number 2 suits in the Dragon Mountain, and it could find even more for them. The other man says she has a point and that he would need to consult headquarters to know how to proceed, and also says that it's happening in other places too, not just there. The girl then starts leaving the room saying that she will check on Captain Zhao. She finally manages to exhale as she was clearly holding her breath from being so nervous. As she walks for Captain Zhao, she thanks Lin Ha, but says that was the most she could do for now. Our dragon wakes up saying that he always has a good night's sleep after using his super fury. The mermaid then, behind him, says that he can sleep as much as he wants, but she can't. He pushes the mermaid, saying that there is some logic to what she's saying, but that he can't quite figure it out. She then says whatever and asks him to hurry up and eat that creature because it smells horrible. Upon eating the creature, a system window informs him that he acquired a mythical iron scales of unparalleled hardness with extremely high defensive abilities. After finishing his meal, a ball of energy appears above our dragon, enveloping his entire body. He then says that basically it's to have higher defenses and that he lost his foreign scales, but the exchange wasn't bad. The dragon then starts to look at himself and see the new scales he received. Suddenly, the system says that he received a hidden reward and asks if he wants to merge his foreign scales. The dragon, super happy, says yes, that he wants the system to merge his scales. Energy then starts swirling around him as he wonders if that's the merging of the two scales he now has. Soon after, the system says the merging was a success and he received the mythical iron foreign scales. He then continues reading the effect, which says that the defense of the scales is extremely high and that 1% of the damage he receives will be returned to his enemy. The dragon happily looks at his new scales while challenging anyone to bite him now. He then thinks about the effect of only returning 1% of the damage. He shakes his paws and says that it's better than nothing. Then our dragon pauses to notice something and asks if it's just him or if the water level of the lake is rising. After analyzing a bit, he says that the extra water seems to be coming from the hole where the axolotl came out. With a greedy look, our dragon says there must be more treasures where the monster came from and starts heading toward the hole. Looking into the abyss, he says he can't see anything, and that when you look into the abyss, something looks back at you, and there's definitely something in there. He then begins to descend, saying that instead of just looking, he's going to say hello to the abyss. He then says that a tunnel that size doesn't seem like it was dug by the axolotl, but rather by humans. Our dragon then stretches out his hand to one of the walls. He scratches his nail on the wall and immediately notices that the walls there are made of metal. Suddenly, he looks down and sees several pairs of eyes rising toward him. Soon after, he sees that they are axolotls and says that now they are coming at him in a pack because they couldn't win in a one-on-one. Charging up energy, he says that now is the time to test his new scales. He then charges at the creatures near him, full of energy. We then see the dragon slashing and defeating the creatures with ease. One of the creatures then charges and fires an energy blast at our dragon, who in turn charges and fires his fire blast at the creature. He goes from one axolotl to another as if they were nothing, defeating them easily. Our dragon holds an axolotl in each hand, choking them. With 2 bites, he quickly tears off the heads of the 2 creatures. The system window says that he faced 3rd-level axolotls and gained 80,000 evolution points, while he asks the system to make a bigger one appear. After defeating the beasts, he continues descending into the abyss. Suddenly, he sees that there is a light at the bottom. He then starts swimming toward the light to understand what it is. Soon after, it seems that something metallic forms around him, completely enclosing him, and he says that he doesn't feel comfortable there. The mermaid then says that it's like he's in a cell, and he agrees with her. He goes on saying that it feels like he's imprisoned and put under constant surveillance. He then says that he didn't expect there to be such a gigantic construction at the bottom of Hulong Lake. Then he and the mermaid think that those could be ruins of another civilization. He stops to see that inside there are some skeletons, and analyzing more closely, he says the bones are thick and that the creatures must have been gigantic. The dragon touches one of the bones, wondering what the heck is happening there. Suddenly, a sound of something powering on begins to echo in the place, startling our dragon. We then see a gigantic circular structure in front of them as he says that the structures there are even larger than those in the Dragon Mountain. He then thinks that this definitely explains the aliens that have been appearing around Hulong Lake. Then he wonders why they didn't get a little help from the Edel organization to awaken those ruins, and thinks maybe the aliens don't fully trust the organization. Our dragon then continues swimming through the transparent tube where he ended up. Further ahead, he exits into what looks like a laboratory with several capsules with green light and wonders if the axolotls escaped from there. He then continues exploring the laboratory and stops in front of a large capsule. He asks what kind of monster that would be, and the system says is a giant fire crocodile with 0 power. The dragon then says it's a good thing that monster didn't wake up because it looks pretty strong. Looking at the capsules, he says that 2 creatures woke up, that he already met one, and wonders where the other one would be. The mermaid points upward while he remembers there were carcasses in the tunnel and that the axolotl must have killed the other creature that woke up. Then he says that now he understands why the aliens don't wake all the creatures at once because they would kill each other. They then arrive at a door with a level 1 written on it, and he wonders what that would mean. The dragon touches the door with his claw and wonders why the ruins in the lake have that door, and if it's more dangerous than the ones in the mountains because of it. He then wonders what kind of creature would have built that, and that it must have been done long before humans were born there. Then he wonders if it was those green aliens or someone even smarter, and suddenly feels resentful, saying they are probably just employees. The mermaid asks why the resentment, and he explains that it's not really that, it's just the energy of someone who worked a 9-to-5 job their whole life. Suddenly, one of the tanks starts to crack. The dragon, startled, asks which capsule is breaking. The system then tells him that it's the capsule containing a level 3 piranha with unknown power. The dragon then moves closer to see the capsule that is breaking. He gets very close and strikes the glass of the capsule with his claws. Then he sees the usual crack without any changes. He notices that his corrosive claw had no effect on the capsule's glass. We see the piranha staring intently from inside the capsule. Then it starts hitting from the inside out while the dragon thinks that maybe a glass can only be broken from the inside out. The piranha manages to break the glass and charges our dragon, who says that it barely woke up and already wants to fight. Our dragon defends himself with his tail, making the piranha bite the tail instead of his body. He then lifts his tail up to his face level and, feeling the piranha's attack power, asks if that's really all she's got. Then he spins his tail, throwing the piranha far away, telling her to go play somewhere else. The piranha is thrown far, crashing into several other tanks until it falls to the ground unconscious. Then our dragon approaches it and stretches out his hand to grab it, saying that youth is like that. Our dragon then opens his mouth and starts devouring the piranha. A system window appears saying he devoured a 3rd level monster and gained 70,000 experience points, while he says the taste is actually good. Then a different and loud sound startles him, making our dragon scream and ask what that noise was. As other tanks start cracking, he wonders if they really can only be destroyed from the inside. Then he asks the mermaid if it was the piranha's spikes, and she says no, because they don't even have 1/10 of the hardness of the corrosive claws. He thinks maybe it's because of that metal ball, but then remembers the metal ball only happened in the Dragon Mountain. The mermaid then says maybe it's because of him, while our dragon questions why it would be him. He then asks if the monsters are waking up because they sense the presence of a being of their own species. Then he concludes that it's not even because they are of the same species, it's because it's him. The dragon then says that he needs to get out of there, while we see a system window informing that the transfer has started. Sometime later, they return to Hulong Lake. The dragon says that the location of that relic is special, not only at the bottom of the lake, but also at the center of the city, which must make it hard to locate. Then he notices that the water levels have risen a lot and that the plants have grown considerably, and he points out to the mermaid how much a koi fish has grown. We see a man and a little girl on top of a walkway, with the man saying that there is spiritual energy there every time he prays to the Dragon King, which must bring a lot of luck. Our dragon then sees a system window saying he has a passive skill called Auspicious Resident that increases luck in the area. The mermaid, giggling, calls him the Dragon King and says that he's doing very well. He then gets embarrassed and says that the plants and animals are growing because of the Auspicious Resident skill, which is exactly what it's for. Our dragon says that it must be because of that skill that the monsters are waking up, and the mermaid says there's no evidence that it's because of that. He even wonders if he should leave the place and says he doesn't want the lake to become a new Dragon Mountain. A system window informs that the mission has been updated and that now it is super difficult, requiring him to devour a 5th level monster, and the reward is a pink box. Next, we see a fishing boat in the middle of the sea. Someone pulls up a fishing net and says that those fish can be sold for a lot of money. A little girl comes running saying that she will catch a big fish so her mother can make braised fish for her, and the man agrees. The little girl then points to her father's back and, clearly scared, asks what that is. The father, also with a frightened face, turns around to see where his daughter is pointing. When he turns, he sees huge tentacles appearing and rising high above his head, while he shouts that it's a monster. The giant tentacles start wrapping and tangling around the small boat. The man grabs his daughter as she asks what's happening, and he tries to dodge the tentacles and escape. He releases his daughter and asks her to start the boat while he grabs an iron bar and starts fighting the tentacles. Before the little girl could enter the deck, one of the tentacles grabbed her, and she screamed, asking for help. The tentacles lift the girl high up while she keeps screaming and asking for her father to help her. Before he could respond, the father is also caught by the tentacles. Suddenly, red and black energy cuts through some of the tentacles with terrible force. Our dragon cuts the tentacle holding the little girl and lands on the boat with her in his arms. The tentacle cut by our dragon is shredded and releasing green smoke. After leaving her safely on the boat, the dragon dives back into the water. The father and his daughter are finally safe on the boat, still recovering from this sudden and shocking event. The little girl then points to the sea and says that the dragon saved them. The dragon asks the mermaid why that attack method feels so familiar to him as he watches the giant squid sinking into the ocean. A voice returns in his head saying that the world is really small. Next, our dragon shoots up at full speed, while the mermaid asks where he's going. Our dragon simply answers that he's going to deal with the consequences. We then see the fishing boat again, still near where they were before. The man then tells his daughter that it's okay, he already called for help and soon they'll be able to return to land and go home. Then a wind blows and the father feels something strange in the air. The girl desperately asks her father what's happening. We then see several shadows in the water approaching the boat as the man watches from the edge. He then goes back and holds his daughter, who, crying, says it's okay because the dragon will come back to help them. A few minutes later, we see the father and daughter at the bow of the boat looking out at the sea. The dragon and the mermaid tell the father and daughter to keep what happened a secret, while the girl says that he's a good dragon and that she will never forget him. The mermaid jokes that every time he goes out, he earns another good dragon title, and he proudly says he's trying to do one good deed a day. Then both are looking at a huge hole at the bottom of the ocean, and the mermaid asks what's wrong and if he's scared. He then says that he is indeed a little scared because he knows he's outside the teleport range, so he can't afford to be careless. The mermaid says that if he doesn't dare to face that monster now, he can go back and chase after the sea loach. Before he could think more about it, the tentacles sneak up behind him and trap him. The dragon asks what the meaning of that is and whether it won't let him leave. Then we see a crab claw coming out from the middle of the tentacles heading toward the dragon. Our dragon then uses his mythical iron thorn scale to slice the tentacles, holding him into pieces. He then sees the tentacles climbing up again and regenerating almost instantly, grabbing him once more. Then he uses his fire breath while saying he wants to see it regenerate after he roasts the entire squid. Some tentacles get completely charred and become inert after his fire attack. The dragon then grabs a piece of tentacle and bites it, saying it's too bland and needs a little seasoning. Looking down, he sees the giant squid revealing itself with many tentacles rising toward him. He then prepares his claws and says that even the minions it hired were weak. Next, he uses his analysis skill to check the monster's information. The system shows that the monster is a level 5 mutant red crab. The mermaid says it's coming, while the dragon wonders what the heck is that body shape. We see a gigantic monster with an extremely frightening appearance, mixing a crab and a giant squid. Our dragon then, seeing that monster, asks exactly that, whether it's a crab or a giant squid. The mermaid then looks seriously at him and says he's in trouble. The dragon then says he will finish this quickly and jumps toward the monster, leaving a trail of red and black energy behind him. Our hero attacks in the middle of all the tentacles surrounding him. The tentacles close around him as he gets closer for his attack. The dragon then, once again using his scales and strength, shreds the tentacles into pieces. Soon after, he says that high speed is the secret to defeating all martial arts as he comes face to face with the mutant crab. The crab then starts charging a fireball in its mouth, while the dragon is caught by surprise by the enemy's ability. The monster then releases its powerful magic on the dragon. Still perplexed, the dragon wonders if that is its red flame ability. A woman is on her laptop and says the word octopus while a man watches her from behind. She continues saying that they have 3 hearts, 9 brains, and 2 completely distinct memory systems. The man then steps beside the girl and says that with 3 hearts, 9 brains, and 2 memory sets, it sounds pretty broken. The woman says while putting her hand on the man's face that it's not just that, their configuration is much more perfect than that of humans. She says that each of its tentacles has a mini brain that can detach from the body to attract predators while it escapes. Besides the fact that its photoreceptors are on the outermost part of its body, and its skin is covered with options that allow it to see the world through its skin. The man says that they really seem perfect and asks why they haven't dominated the earth yet, and the girl says that they haven't because they are limited. She continues saying that they are also solitary, and because of that, they accumulate experiences but don't pass them on. The man, pinching the woman's cheeks, says that octopuses are incredible and dangerous creatures, and that's why they should eat fried octopus tentacles today. We then return to the dragon's fight with the crab, seeing the dragon dodging another fire blast aimed at him. He thinks that the monster didn't know how to use that ability and that it really learns very fast. It saw it used only once and could already replicate it. Then he thinks no, because the one who attacked him was the mutant red crab. The dragon uses his analysis skill again while seeing the half crab, half giant squid monster in front of him. He concludes that it is actually an octopus. Looking more closely at the monster, he says is a mutant octopus parasitizing a mutant red crab. Our dragon begins to charge energy into his fist and prepares to attack. Shouting, he says he can't believe it can learn everything. Then he grabs the crab's claw with his own, letting reddish-black energy burst from his fingertips. The crab attacks using something similar to what he just used, while our dragon exclaims how fast that was. Looking closer, the dragon says he overestimated it, and it seems it can only copy the form. The monster, seeming offended, charges our dragon again. He also analyzes that the regeneration power comes from the octopus, and that it can use it on the crab part of its body too. The mutant crab uses the claw attack on our dragon again. As the attack comes at him, the dragon says that it likes copying things and asks how it will copy this next attack. He then places his open hand to stop the monster's claw. The dragon then pushes the crab's claw away and prepares an attack with his other claw. He then cuts several of the monster's tentacles with the attack he prepared using his other claw. Smirking mischievously, he tells it to regenerate another one then. The crab, enraged, charges at the dragon again with its gigantic body. Opening its mouth, it releases acidic bubbles, spitting them toward the dragon. Our dragon, however, notices and says it's useless for it to spit acid at him while grabbing one of its claws. Then the dragon pulls one of the monster's claws, tearing it off from its body with such force. In response to having its claw torn off, the crab spits the fire beam again toward our hero. The dragon ignores it and swims through the fire beam thrown at him, saying to the crab how dare it use his own attack against him. The octopus intensifies the fire beam and cannot realize when the dragon is approaching inside the beam. Soon after, our hero gets close enough to grab two of the octopus's tentacles. With a strong pull, the dragon tries to tear the octopus off the crab and throw it far away. He watches as the octopus is thrown far away from the crab, and he thinks that if it weren't for his super berserker mode along with his powerful fire resistance, it wouldn't have been so easy. Looking at the crab with a huge hole in its back, our hero thinks he never imagined there would be a parasitic relationship between two mutant creatures. Then he sees the octopus starting to flee and asks if now it has also learned how to run. The dragon then flies toward the fleeing octopus. Again, he uses his claws to easily cut pieces of the octopus's tentacles. The mermaid then tells him to stop chasing the monster because his berserker mode time is limited. He says he doesn't know what kind of creature it will parasitize next time, and the mermaid tells him to eat what he has to eat quickly and stop desperately chasing an enemy. The dragon then philosophically questions what the monster will be the next time they meet and whether they will meet again, and the mermaid says she should have abandoned him. The system window informs that the super difficult mission to devour a level 5 mutant monster has been successfully completed, and the reward is a random skill. He is happy and says he wants a machine gun that emits blue fire after shooting, while once again the mermaid looks perplexed at the dragon's imagination. He then clicks on the system window for his new skill to see which one he will get. The window says that the heavens decided to bless him with luck and congratulates him for obtaining a pink level skill called Babble. The dragon looks shocked and asks what that Babble skill is. The mermaid looks serious as she points to the system window with his new skill. He then reads that the skill is passive and allows him to hear the language of another being and slowly start imitating it until mastering the form of speech. The dragon says that copying was the mutant octopus's skill and wonders if, in the future, he will also be able to copy the skills of other mutant creatures. He then remembers that now he can learn to speak the alien's language. He starts heading somewhere, and the mermaid asks where he's going while he asks her to help think of a way to get back into the dragon group's laboratory. She then, completely shocked, says he must be flirting with death. We see a building with some lights on during the night. In one of those windows, the old doctor is holding some papers. He turns to the side and asks if little Lou is still working. The woman then says she is researching that previous topic. The old man then asks if she is still trying to increase the concentration of the GL virus, and she says yes, that it is the only way to improve abilities. She continues by saying that if they manage to find a way to boost the virus activity through cultivation, fewer people will have to die. The woman then, determined, says she will definitely find the answer. The old man then says that's fine but tells her not to work too late and to take care of her health, while she responds for him not to worry. The dragon then, looking surprised, asks if that was really her idea. He says that, ignoring the fact that his plan involved posing as a janitor, the clothes are extremely short and he looks like a pervert. The mermaid says the clothes aren't short enough while clinging to the boy's torso, taking advantage of his body. He then says that if she moves a little lower, she'll see what happens. The dragon then asks the system if it can locate where the dragon team hid that alien, but the mermaid says the signal there is horrible. He laughs at her while saying that the system fails at the most critical moments. Someone behind him tells him to stop, and looking back, he thinks he has been discovered. The girl, pointing a gun at the dragon's neck, says they don't have any janitor that muscular. The mermaid laughs and says she's his girlfriend while he tells her to shut up, and the girl tells him not to move because she's already called the police. She asks him to turn around very slowly and put his hands up. Then our dragon turns around to face his girlfriend. She immediately recognizes him and drops her gun to the ground. Crying, she calls him Lin Hao. Someone yells down the hall asking where she is and if she's alright, while she says that the police she called have arrived. She then tells him to follow her as the police officers appear at the corner of the hallway they were in. One of the men says it's strange because he heard voices coming from there just now. Another man, gun in hand, opens a door asking if they could be hiding in there. The man enters and the room looks like a library full of shelves and large cabinets, and behind one of them our hero and the girl are hiding. Our hero, the girl, and the mermaid are tense, listening carefully to the man who entered the room searching for them. The mermaid screams and says she's scared, clinging to our hero, who asks why she's scared if they can't even see her. The girl presses our boy even closer against her chest. The mermaid's hair starts to tickle his nose, making him want to sneeze. The woman looks up and realizes he's about to sneeze, and the men are nearby searching the room and would definitely hear them. She then kisses him, thus preventing him from sneezing. The men say it really seems like there's no one there and that they should keep searching the hallways as they begin to leave the room. The girl then stops kissing our dragon. For a few seconds, they just stare at each other. She then asks what happened to him, why he was there, and if it was him that time. He says the story is long and that he's there to meet the alien they captured and that about his current situation. Then he is interrupted by a tremendous pain in his chest. The mermaid, smiling, informs him that his human form only lasts 5 minutes and tells him to run, and he asks why she didn't tell him that earlier. Suga asks who he's talking to while he says it's nothing and tells himself he must remember that no matter what he transforms into, he would never hurt her and would never do anything against his principles, and he pulls her by the back of the neck and kisses her again. Then, in the middle of the kiss, our hero places his hand flat, and then uses his strength to strike the girl's neck, knocking her out. The mermaid then asks why he didn't tell them the truth, and he says that the driving group would probably want to experiment on him and she wouldn't be able to stop them. Then, caressing her and leaving her comfortably leaning against the wall, he says that once he is stronger and more confident, he will come back for her. Our hero then walks toward the exit with the mermaid behind him. The girl remains unconscious, leaning against the library wall. She then seems to dream and calls out for Lin Hao while a green energy aura surrounds her. Then she wakes up in the place where our dragon left her, startled. She notices that her body has become lighter and more powerful and wonders if she has become stronger. She also wonders what caused the activity of the GL virus to increase in her body and wonders if it was that. Slightly embarrassed, she wonders if it was the kiss she gave her boyfriend, remembering the scene. The old scientist says that although ancient civilizations had technologies far above theirs, she should be careful. After all, she was the most precious material. The blonde man then says that she will face life or death trials to obtain the second piece of equipment, and the girl says that it's fine, that she will definitely succeed. Then, with determination in her eyes, she thinks she will succeed because now she has a new strength. The scientist says that ideally they should gain full control over that ruin, and that it is a shame the key is not fully mastered and still controls the ruin. To conclude, he says he only hopes that Lu Xu can bring back useful and valuable things. She enters the ruins, looking around as she moves forward. Sometime later, something seems to fall in front of her in the ruins, raising a lot of dust. A system window appears welcoming the challenger and showing an axe, a sword, and a pistol, asking her to choose her preferred weapon. She then thinks that the pistol looks really powerful, but is not so useful when dealing with mutant creatures. The girl then, holding the giant axe, says that it is the best option because it can attack and defend. The system then says that the weapon has been chosen and that the challenge will begin soon. In a few seconds, the system informs that the challenge has begun as we see our girl dodging red beams launched toward her. Then a network of lasers is sent over her. Quickly, she analyzes the network and sees a gap right in the middle of it. Then, with her extremely fast reflexes, she manages to jump in a way that passes right through the middle of the laser network. The girl, smiling, thinks that those traps are very easy for her new agility. Upon landing on the ground, the girl destroys her surroundings with her impact. Then she notices something different on the floor, which opens into a hole, making her fall. Luckily, with her new agility, she manages to hook the tip of her axe onto the upper floor. In pulling herself back up to the main floor, she thinks that something is wrong. Soon after, she notices the mutant creature in front of her, identifying it as a stegosaurus. Analyzing the dinosaur, she notices that the weak points are the head and the abdomen. She then picks up the axe and starts to plot her attack plan. Circling to the side of the monster, she quickly attacks with her axe. Her axe hits precisely on the side of the mutant dinosaur's head, while she thinks that the monster's body has been strengthened beforehand. The monster takes advantage of the second she paused during her attack and throws her against the nearby wall. The girl then, feeling the impact of being thrown against the wall, falls to the ground while the monster starts to turn toward her. She begins to get up while thinking that she has to find the monster's weak point quickly. The girl thinks she can't keep getting beaten like that while she sees the monster's tail coming toward her for another attack. She grabs the monster's tail, taking the hit and keeping it trapped. Then she jumps as if to climb onto the tail. She then starts climbing using her axe as a counterweight. She then traces a pendulum motion with her axe, ready to climb onto the creature's back. At the end of her move, she ends up kneeling on top of the monster's tail. The girl quickly takes advantage of the surprise to run along the beast's back toward its head. Using her last step to propel herself upwards, she raises the axe and aims her attack at the beast's nape. Before descending with the attack, she thinks that it's just like that other day. She just has to feel the heat flowing through her body. Then finally, she strikes down on the monster's nape with great impact and strength. The blow was so strong that it split the monster's head in two. Soon after, a system window appears congratulating her for completing the challenge. A silver chest appears along with another system window, informing her that she has earned her second piece of equipment. Smiling and looking at the chest, she thinks that she finally obtained her second piece of equipment. Soon after, we return to our dragon saying to the mermaid that he wanted to learn the alien's language but ended up coming back without doing anything. The mermaid started to say that at least he got to kiss his girlfriend, but he interrupts her, telling her not to say anything else. She throws him away, calling him a pervert. The dragon Dizzy says that she's just a system, that she can't do that. He then notices that she's becoming more and more human. While he was talking, he noticed he was surrounded by giant mutant oysters. Our dragon is facing a giant mutant fire crocodile. The monster then uses its tail to launch an attack. Our dragon, full of himself, says that it is flirting with death. He then dodges the giant crocodile's tail strike. He takes the opportunity to use his body to hit the crocodile's chest, using the momentum to propel himself backward and gain distance. The force of our dragon's blow sends the crocodile crashing into the laboratory wall with great impact. Dust rises, and from the middle of the cloud, the crocodile comes quickly with its fierce fangs towards our hero. Next, we see the crocodile surrounded by colorful flames at a medium distance from our dragon. Our hero then, summoning his flames, challenges his enemy by saying they should compare their flames and see which one is stronger. The two of them, each with their flames, stare at each other as our dragon asks if he really thought it was over. He finishes by saying that now the main event is about to begin. Then he and the crocodile clash head-on, each helped by their flames. We see that they are literally head-to-head, and it seems our hero is getting the upper hand. Soon after, we see the crocodile clearly dizzy after taking our dragon's headbutt. Seeing that the monster was dizzy, our hero says he will take advantage of its weakness to attack and uses his ferocious claws skill. He then uses his skill on the crocodile and green energy claws strike it. Next, he notices that the crocodile's skin is very tough and that his attack had no effect. Then our dragon says it doesn't matter. If once is not enough, he will try 2, 3 infinite times. He tells the crocodile to observe the style of his small whirlwind of corrosive claws. Suddenly, the crocodile defends against the small whirlwind with just one hand. Our hero then says that besides extremely high defense, the crocodile is also very fast. While defending with one of its hands, the other prepares an attack against our dragon, who, interrupting his small whirlwind, dodges the strike. And then he bites the crocodile, saying that if he can't use his hands, he will use his mouth. The crocodile, clearly displeased, swats our dragon, sending him flying a good distance away. Seconds later, the crocodile charges toward the dragon with its mouth open, ready to attack. The bite lands squarely, leaving our dragon inside the crocodile's mouth as he activates the mysterious spiked iron scale. The crocodile shakes its injured mouth, letting our hero fall out and hit the ground. Analyzing his opponent, our hero says, "If the tiger doesn't show its claws, do you really think I'm just a sick cat?" Finally, the dragon decides to activate his super berserker mode while saying that he will tear the crocodile apart. With his incredibly high speed, the dragon disappears from the crocodile's sight in an instant. In the next instant, he is beneath the beast's head, preparing a close combat attack. The dragon gets close enough and bites the crocodile in the middle of its abdomen. The crocodile then feels the pain from the bite and screams while summoning its bluish flames. Our hero says that he has his own flames and asks why he should be afraid of his. Then he releases his jaw and pulls out of the bite he had on the crocodile. He looks directly at the beast in front of him with a slight smile in his gaze. Then he delivers an absurd amount of strikes with his claws on the crocodile. He manages to hurt the target badly with his barrage of punches and the bite. Our dragon sinks both his claws into the open wound in the monster's abdomen. Screaming, he tells the crocodile to settle down because it is destined to die by his hands, and then he tears the monster in two right after. Still in super berserker mode, he watches the mess he made out of the crocodile from a distance. He then starts picking up the beast's pieces and eating them. The dragon says that the chicken-like taste is very good, but the meat is very tough, hard on the teeth, and prays that his next upgrade will be sharper teeth. Then he hears a different sound coming from somewhere inside the laboratory. Looking back, he asks who is there. The gate with the letter E on it is making a noise. Then our dragon says that if that is the door to the first level, he must be on level 0. Getting closer, he says the sound is loud and wonders if there is an even stronger mutant monster inside. Next, he gets very close to the metal door and starts pondering something. He then opens the door a little, and we see electronic equipment inside with power cables. As soon as he opened it, the sound stopped and our hero wondered why on earth there was no more noise. An extremely powerful aura appears and our hero thinks it is very dangerous, while something is rushing toward the door. Quickly, our dragon slams the door shut. Right after closing the door, he breathes a sigh of relief for not letting whoever was inside get out. The dragon thinks that Beast must be at least level 5 with a combat power higher than 2000, and that he will come back after training and getting stronger. Then he opens his status window to see how many combat points he gained and is surprised to see he received 400,000 combat points. The mermaid then reappears happily, saying that now he can evolve at least twice consecutively. He tells her to stay away because he is getting ready to evolve. Our dragon says that after waking up, he will be at least level 40 and will definitely have new changes. Meanwhile, in the dragon's laboratory, scientists are gathered analyzing a video. One of the scientists asks why there are so many mutant monsters on Dragon Island. We then see a mutant tree different from common trees, a completely mutant flower with seeds that look like eyes, and a giant red-eyed boar. Another scientist says that the arrival of the alien must have triggered some event, transforming all the mountain's fauna and flora into mutants. The old scientist appears, saying that the source of power there seems to be denser. The other then asks what he meant by the source of power. Shu then replies, saying that the source of power or original power is the energy that originates from the depths of the universe. He continues explaining that the body accepts the GT virus and after evolution, the original power becomes the source of their special abilities. He explains that they are working on a way for soldiers to better absorb this energy, but the results have not been very good. Little Sue begins to get slightly shy as she remembers the kiss she gave her boyfriend and starts to say something about it. Another man interrupts her, saying that headquarters suspects that the increase in original power on Dragon Mountain is related to a being. We then see images of our dragon on the huge laboratory screens for all the scientists to see. Little Xui then thinks about her boyfriend Lin Hao and becomes apprehensive that he is about to be discovered. The man continues saying that he devoured the 2 mutant monsters, including the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and that 2 members of the organization were also injured by him. Then he says that the origin of that being matches exactly with the beginning of the original power increase at Hulong Lake, and that he is probably involved with it. One of the scientists then asks why it sounds as if that being is helping them by eliminating the mutant monsters. The man in armor says that obviously he is helping them, and then he even left the 2 organization members alive. Another scientist considers the possibility that the being has human-like intelligence, and the man in armor says they can't be sure, or that maybe he is being controlled by someone else. Then the scientist says they will only be sure once they capture the creature and dissect it for research. Little Xu screams no, reacting to the scientist's comment about capturing the creature and killing it for study. Everyone in the room is surprised at the way she said that. She quickly says that she is close to being able to cultivate original power, and that she needs a place with a high concentration of this energy to continue her experiments. The scientist then asks if she really managed to find a way to cultivate the energy. She then says that the creature increases the power concentration in the area and that she recommends sealing Hulong Lake and trapping the creature there while she tests cultivation methods. The older scientist says that the organization cooperates with alien creatures to try to awaken the mutants and that their soldiers increase their powers. The woman then thinks that her boyfriend is safe for now and that she needs to take the opportunity to find out his secret and how to cultivate the power. The third scientist who is in the room starts shouting that the global rankings were updating. He continues saying that he would really like to know which country uploaded the information about the mutant creatures, and someone asks for them to open the video quickly. The woman explains that the ranking is based on the danger level, and that they always have to analyze it to be prepared for the danger when it comes. Then we see a creature, a gigantic octopus with a triple as danger level. Sue then breathes a sigh of relief, thankful that the number 1 is still asleep. Then the second most dangerous creature ranked double S, the golden flaming demon bird. She then points out that there haven't been many changes in the top rankings for a long time, and another scientist says that the change happened at the 100th place. The 100th place was clearly our dragon, who entered as a Class B danger level. The scientist, startled, points and says that is the creature they were just talking about a moment ago. Sue thinks that her boyfriend is now in the global rankings. The scientist says that this update was really fast. He continues saying that of course that is a network established by all the warriors who merged with the virus. The man in armor says that once it appears in the rankings, everyone will know about the creature's existence, including the Ale organization. The woman then says that the creature is friendly to them and that they need to warn everyone that it cannot be killed and that they must seal Hulong Lake quickly. The old scientist says that he will report this to the higher-ups immediately to try to protect the creature. The armored man's phone rings, and as soon as he answers, he is shocked by the news he receives. He then says that a mutant creature was discovered on the opposite side of Luncheon Mountain. One of the scientists says that he seems very serious talking about it and asks if the creature is really that powerful. Then a video is thrown onto the screen while the man says he doesn't know yet because they have only managed to see its paw. And he continues saying that the problem is that the photo was taken by a normal civilian walking down the street and that now it's on the internet and going viral. Then they say that people will panic if they know the truth, and one of them asks if they can't release some news saying it's just special effects or something like that. The armored man says that the rumor about the Dragon King has spread and that people have been going there frequently to worship and that the whole thing has become very spiritual. Then the older scientist says that they don't need to cover up the whole story, that eventually the virus will spread and the whole world will turn into mutants. He says that they won't be able to hide it forever, and the armored man, shocked, asks if he is suggesting they tell the world the truth. The scientist says that they will give people time to get used to it, and that he believes people will eventually find out the truth for themselves. Sue says that they really will discover it for themselves and that the era of mutants will finally become common knowledge. Several people are taking pictures of the giant foot on the mountain, commenting that if the foot is already that size, imagine the rest of the body, and that it must be over 30 meters tall. Meanwhile, a system window appears to our dragon saying that his evolution is complete. Clearly very changed, our dragon says that it's not bad, that he can tell his body is much stronger, but he still hasn't evolved into something with wings. Another window appears congratulating him for reaching level 40 and saying that he received a purple chest. He then says that he will open the chest first. The chest opening animation is happening while he says that it's guaranteed to be something purple, but he's hoping for something golden. The system then shows corrosive fangs, saying that his fangs will become sharper, and that when they attack, they leave corrosion behind. Seeing what he got, he was surprised and wonders what the heck corrosive fangs are. Soon after, a bright light comes out of his mouth. All of his teeth fall out while he wonders if the new corrosive fangs could corrode his own mouth. Then new teeth start growing inside his mouth. In the next second, they stop, and our dragon notices that they are really very sharp, and that if he had had these fangs before, it would have been much easier to deal with the crocodile. The mermaid says that his combat power increased, but he says it only went up by 100, and that he will have to reach a new limit when he gets to level 50. He then says that's enough thinking and says he will evolve again. Looking at himself, he says that the physical changes don't seem to be many. He looks up and hears someone shouting for them to stop pushing him. Right after, he sees a cell phone falling toward him. The cell phone was showing a video of a dragon's paw sticking out of the mountain, and our dragon says that a transformation is happening in Longshan. The mermaid says that the last time he evolved, his foot stuck out of the mountain and questions whether the creature is hiding inside that mountain. Our dragon says he can't wait any longer, that he will investigate it himself that night. Then, during the night, our dragon starts to emerge from the lake. He looks at the foot sticking out of the mountain and says that if that thing really exists, what kind of creature it would be. Soon after, he sees what looks like a shooting star in the sky and wonders if it's some kind of data overload. Then he remembers when the aliens came and wonders if it's them again. He then flies after the object. Flying over a car, he wonders if it's the Dragon Squad. Being cautious, he hides behind a rock and watches the car from a distance. Someone inside the car opens the door while saying that according to the information, the spaceship will land nearby and to get ready for their arrival. One of the two men says, of course, that the one arriving is a 4th grade warrior, someone extremely strong. Our dragon then realizes that it's not the Dragon Squad, but the Eel organization. Still watching from a distance, our dragon seems to recognize one of the two men. That he recognizes one of them as the man who once tried to kill him and says that now he is in his hands. Suddenly, a spaceship begins to land where they are waiting. Our dragon observes and confirms that it is an alien spaceship. The older man tells the other to stay back and let him handle the negotiation. He then says that he was sent by the Eel organization to receive him and welcomes him to Earth. A humanoid being comes out of the ship covered in metallic armor. The being then asks if they found the ruins in that city. He says that so far they have confirmed the existence of one ruin and that a huge creature mutated and appeared on the other side of Long Mountain. Our dragon thinks that the creature really woke up because of the Eel organization's work with the aliens and wonders if they want to turn Earth into a hunting ground. The alien says that as soon as he finishes destroying that ship, they should take him there. The older man, clearly pitying the spaceship, says that's fine. The dragon then, looking surprised, says that that kind of ship shouldn't be so easily destroyed. Then he charges at the alien, trying to land a fierce bite. However, the alien is faster and manages to dodge. Then he conjures some crystals and throws them toward our dragon. But the dragon blocks all of them, making them bounce off his skin and fly in various directions. The alien then makes an energy blade appear from one of his wrists. He then charges into close combat against our dragon, trying to hit him with his energy sword, but misses the blow. Our dragon takes advantage of the moment to land a tail strike on the alien's abdomen. With the force of the blow, he ends up flying meters away. The older man from the organization asks if that is a little dragon. The alien begins calculating the combat power, but it jumps from 1,000 and 1 to 1,245, and he wonders how that is possible. The dragon, charging again, asks if he is really distracted while they fight. The alien leaps up with his sword in hand and tells the dragon not to overestimate himself. Our dragon then releases a fire blast from his mouth toward the alien. The enemy cuts through the flames, saying that a little heat does nothing to him. The alien then strikes our dragon's head with his sword. But we see the sword stop between our hero's horns and do nothing. The enemy clearly didn't expect that and is startled. In the next second, he retreats, gaining distance. He then wonders why the heck that mutant creature's body is so tough. Our dragon asks if that blow was intended to wake him up, because if so, it worked. He's awake. The alien activates extreme combat mode on his armor and charges toward the dragon, saying that he is an inferior creature and should die there in that hunting ground. The fighter jumps toward our dragon, who prepares to receive the blow. Our dragon notices as the enemy approaches that his strength and speed have increased. Then he shouts, instantly covering himself in flames. As he descends toward the blazing dragon, he wonders what that is. Taking advantage of the alien's confusion, our dragon uses his tail once again to deliver another powerful strike. And once again, he hits the enemy's torso with force. However, at this time, the alien doesn't fly away, but instead brings down his sword in a great explosion of light and speed. But our dragon's strength is greater, causing him to prevail in the clash of forces against the alien. Then the dragon brings his face close to the enemy and tells him to explain exactly what they intend to do. Surprised, the alien asks if he can talk. Our dragon lands another blow on the enemy while shouting for him to answer the question. The dragon then says that he came to Earth and asks if he is here to expand his master's hunting ground. From the alien's reaction, our dragon thinks he hit the mark. The alien says that he knows the goal. He begins to say that they, the inferior creatures, will all be hunted anyway, but our dragon doesn't let him finish speaking and grabs his head with one of his paws. Lifting the alien with one hand, he panics and asks the dragon what he is doing. His hand begins to catch fire and the enemy screams, begging to be released, saying he can help him evolve. With fire coming out of his mouth, the dragon tells the alien to speak, and then asks who is the insignificant creature now while burning the alien with his flames. Soon after, we see the alien's body lying on the ground, practically charred. A few seconds later, our dragon is devouring the alien and says it's disgusting, but evolution points are valuable. A system window shows that he devoured a green warrior beast and gained 200,000 evolution points and a purple chest. He then opens the purple chest while the two men are trying to sneak away behind his back. However, our dragon noticed and tells them not to even try to escape. He then spits fire at the two of them. While the two are lying on the ground, scorched, our dragon says he has some questions for them. The dragon suddenly notices cars approaching. He goes near what is left of the alien's body and removes a stone from the front of his armor. Soon after, he says it's a shame, but that he's not sticking around. He then flees, saying that at least he got a battle armor, which is still a victory. A few seconds later, 3 cars approach the spaceship. The woman points to the ship and says that must be the spaceship they were informed about. She gets out of the car while the man in armor tells her to be careful because there could be an alien around. Sue says the alien doesn't seem to be nearby. The man says that they always destroy the ship when they arrive on Earth, but this one seems to be intact, and the woman begins theorizing about the ship's internal system. But another man interrupts her, saying there's a remote control nearby. The man in armor says it's the first time he's seen something like that and wonders what it does. Sue asks if it could be a detonation device. She says that if it is the detonator and it's still there, the spaceship is probably intact. The man with the closed helmet says that the alien didn't even have time to press a button on his control before running away. The woman then corrects him, saying that he didn't run away, he was attacked. And showing a footprint nearby, she says he was attacked by a mutant creature. The man in armor says that, judging by the footprint, it must have been a creature about 10 or 20 meters in size. She continues saying that there are burn marks everywhere, and that if it's not some alien technology, a mutant creature might emit flames. The man wonders if there really is such a strong creature around and says there are no footprints marking the creature's departure. The other man shouts that there are still 2 people alive there, and they can ask them what they saw. They then say to take both the spaceship and the 2 survivors back to the base. He says that was very good, but the woman tells them to wait. Sue says that the size and the golden flames seem familiar, and the man asks if she thinks it could be the same creature from before. She says that the 2 are from the Ale organization, and that they are alive besides the spaceship being intact and the alien missing. The man realizes that it's true, and that the creature really seems to be helping, but that it has grown because the last information said 13 meters, not 20. Shocked, he wonders if the creature is evolving, and the doctor says that's exactly it. The man says that mutant creatures evolving is unprecedented. She then says that obviously it can happen and that he clearly. Then the man interrupts, asking what she was trying to say. She then remembers the kiss she gave her boyfriend and blushes slightly, thinking about the end of the sentence she was about to say, that he helped her increase her original power. She says, smiling awkwardly, that he clearly has intelligence and that it's not strange for him to evolve. In her thoughts, she says that the subject of cultivating original power is really important and that she must find a way to truly verify it. Then the woman gives orders for everyone to return to the Dragon organization and report everything that happened that day to the superiors. Somewhere nearby, our dragon is looking at a system window asking if he wants to open the purple chest he has. Anxious, he hopes the chest will give him a paint grade ability. The system then shows that he received an ability called Super Perception, allowing him to notice things even the naked eye cannot see. While absorbing the ability, he says that a skill that increases perception isn't bad at all. Standing still, he notices he can hear the sound of a leaf falling to the ground from a distance. He says it's as if eyes and ears have grown all over his body and that he'll never have to worry about ambushes again. Then the system notification sounds and he gets a giant scare. He then wonders if the notification sound was always this loud and thinks that maybe having such high perception isn't entirely good. He opens the mission window and realizes he can only have 8 missions at the same time and that the rewards are good, so he should focus on completing them. Leaving that place, he thinks he will head first to the Longian Reservoir because he remembers that there are Morocco's stones there. We then see the lake in the dead of night. A flashlight appears and someone asks if it isn't more dangerous because it's the middle of the night. An influencer and his friends are at the Longian Reservoir while he explains that the sea monsters they saw were just computer graphics and asks to start the live stream. One of his friends says that Brother Long is right and that they've already gone to several haunted places and all of them turned out to be fake. His friend starts Brother Long's live stream and he says he's there to show everyone the reservoir in the middle of the night. He comments that another influencer was there before and said he was attacked and never returned, and that he is there to solve that mystery. Then pointing the phone toward the lake, he says he will show them the situation while in the comments people ask him to get into the water. Suddenly one of his friends asks what that was. Something seems to be in the middle of the lake and he wonders if it's a spaceship, while his followers beg him to go in and check. Then he picks up a stone and asks who's messing with him. Throwing the stone into the lake, he tells the person to show themselves. Right after, in midair, the stone he threw is shattered. Soon after, our dragon emerges from the water, roaring at the boys. The 3 then turn pale and scream, "Monster." Brother Long's phone falls to the ground in the shock, and his followers start worrying, asking what happened. Our dragon looks at the spaceship and asks where that guy came from, and says that it doesn't matter what it is, he won't allow it to mess around in his territory. He also says that he will keep evolving constantly until one day he can destroy all of them. We then return to the Dragon Organization base. with the old scientist asking if the spaceship appeared again at the reservoir. He gets worried and thinks that the situation is getting worse very quickly and that their combat capabilities are not keeping up. Someone then knocks on his office door and he tells them to come in. Stu enters and says she has something important she wants to discuss with him, which is about cultivating original power. He asks if she has a cultivation method and she says she only has an idea, but that it might end up being useful for them. The old scientist tells her to explain it first, and if it's really possible, he will give her anything she wants. She says she doesn't want anything except to be able to fight on the front lines and resolve the country's crisis as quickly as possible. Thinking about her boyfriend, she says she's sure he will do the same and that she wishes to meet him on the battlefield. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's